I am just a chronicler and welcome you to another video. Since I know many of you watch to relax and fall asleep, I thought it would be nice if you left a comment telling me where you're listening from and if it's raining there. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the episodes. Now, it's time to get comfortable, relax, and begin. The first time the lights went out, I thought it was normal. Motion sensors sometimes fail. But when they kept turning off earlier and earlier each night, I started counting the minutes, started counting the steps, started noticing how things changed when I was alone on the 15th floor. I work late often. Software development deadlines don't care about normal business hours. Most people leave around 6 p.m. By 7, the floor is empty except for me and the hum of computers. 3 weeks ago, the lights first shut off at 8:47 p.m. I got up from my desk, waved my arms. They came back on. Standard stuff. The next night, 8:32 p.m. Dark, wave arms. Lights on. Slightly annoying, but nothing weird. But then, 8:15 p.m. 7:58 p.m. 7:41 p.m. Each night, the lights went out a little earlier. Each time, the motion sensors took longer to respond. I started logging it. Time of shutdown. Time to reactivate. Number of arm waves needed. The pattern was clear. 17 minutes earlier each night. 2 extra seconds of darkness before the lights came back. Last week, I had to walk into the hallway to trigger the sensors. My desk movements weren't enough anymore. The darkness felt heavier, thicker. I counted my steps to the hallway. 15 from my desk to the door. 20 to the main corridor. Numbers made it feel normal. Mechanical, just a building doing building things. But the numbers changed. 15 steps became 16. 20 became 22. The floor didn't get bigger. My stride didn't get shorter. The space stretched. I measured with my phone. Standard office floor. Standard dimensions. But at night, alone, it took more steps to cross the same distance. The elevator stopped responding to my floor's button at 7:24 p.m. Maintenance said they couldn't find any problems. Said it worked fine during the day. I started taking the stairs. Counted them too. 15 steps between floors. Always 15, until it wasn't. 16 steps, 17, 20, 25. The stairs grew each night. The distance between floors stretched like taffy. I timed my walks to the stairwell. 3 minutes from desk to door. But the timestamps on my phone showed 10 minutes passing. 15, 20. Time stretched to the security desk, called last Thursday. Asked why I was pacing the halls at 3 a.m. I checked my watch. 8:15 p.m. Checked my phone. 8:15 p.m. Checked my computer. 8:15 p.m. The security footage showed me walking all night, back and forth. But I was at my desk, typing, working. I started recording my screen while I worked. Wanted to prove I was actually doing my job, not wandering the halls for hours. The footage showed my screen, showed my hands typing. But the reflection in my monitor showed me standing behind my chair, watching myself work. I changed desks, moved to the other side of the floor, away from the dark corner where the lights went out first. The darkness followed, earlier and earlier. More and more steps to reach the light switch. More and more time between waves and activation. Yesterday, the lights went out at 6:15 p.m. People were still working, still at their desks. No one else noticed. They kept typing, kept talking, kept working in the dark like it was normal. I walked to Jim's desk, waved my hand in front of his face. He kept typing. Sarah was on the phone. I could hear her voice, see her mouth moving, but her words came from the other side of the floor. I counted steps between her desk and her voice. 50, in a space that should have been 20. The elevator doesn't come to my floor at all now. The button is there, but pressing it does nothing. The stairs. I don't know how many steps there are anymore. I started counting this morning, reached 300 between 14 and 15. Kept going up, never reached my floor. My phone shows 8:15 p.m. Has shown 8:15 p.m. for days. The security desk keeps calling. Keeps asking why I'm walking the halls at 3 a.m., at 4 a.m., at 5 a.m. I see myself in the reflections, walking, pacing, testing the elevator button, counting stairs that multiply under my feet. But I'm at my desk, always at my desk. The lights went out at 5 p.m. today. No one noticed. They keep working, keep talking. Their voices coming from different places than their bodies. I counted steps to the bathroom. 612. In a straight line, there should have been 30. Water runs from the taps, but it never reaches the sink, falls up instead, disappears into the ceiling. My screen shows code, shows my hands typing, shows work getting done. The reflection shows me standing in the hall, shows me trying doors that open into more halls, shows me counting steps that never end. I called maintenance about the lights. The phone rang for 2 hours. When someone answered, it was my voice, telling me to count the steps, count the minutes, count the doors. I tried to leave early today, tried to beat the darkness. The elevator still won't come. The stairs won't end. The emergency exit opens into another floor. Identical but empty. No desks, no people. Just more doors, more halls, more steps to count. My co-workers keep working. Their voices drift from different corners. Their reflections show them walking different halls. Their bodies stay at their desks. The lights went out at 4 p.m. My phone shows 8:15 p.m. Security calls about my 3 a.m. walks. I count steps between my desk and the door. 1,247. The floor is stretching. The time is stretching. The space between here and anywhere else grows like a cancer. I see myself in every reflection now, walking every hall, trying every door, counting steps that multiply like cells dividing. But I'm at my desk, always at my desk. The lights went out at 3 p.m. No one noticed. They keep working. I keep counting. The floor keeps stretching. Security keeps calling. 8:15 p.m. never ends. I think I understand now. The 15th floor was always empty. The people were always reflections. The steps were always infinite, and I was always walking, always counting, always trying to reach a desk I left years ago, in an office that never existed, on a floor that never ends. Security log entry. Employee reported missing. Last seen entering elevator to 15th floor. Security footage shows continuous walking in halls between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. Employees' computer logs show active work during same period. Floor currently unoccupied. Building records show number 15th floor in original construction plans. Story 2. I noticed the pattern after 2 months of living next door. Mrs. Chun's bedroom light. On at 8 p.m., off at 10 p.m. Every night. No variation, no exceptions. Like clockwork. At first, I didn't think much about it. Old people keep routines. I'd wave to her sometimes when I got home from work. She'd wave back from her garden. Normal neighbor stuff. But after 3 months, I started timing it. The light clicked on at exactly 8 hours, 0 minutes and 0 seconds p.m. Not 7:59, not 8:01. Perfect precision. Every single night. Same with the 10 p.m. shutdown. On the dot. Every time. I started watching more closely. The bedroom window faced my home office. I could see the warm yellow glow through her curtains while I worked late. The light never flickered, never dimmed, never brightened. Just on at 8, off at 10, like a switch being thrown by a timer. One night, her garbage bins didn't go out. Mrs. Chen always put them out Tuesday evening. Never missed a week in the 3 months I'd lived there. I knocked on her door the next morning. No answer. Checked her mailbox. Stuffed full. 2 weeks of mail, at least. Called the police for a welfare check. They came out, knocked louder. No response. They were about to break down the door when Mrs. Chun's daughter showed up. Had a key. The house was empty. Dust on everything. No food in the fridge. No recent signs of life. Mum moved to assisted living 2 months ago, her daughter said. House has been empty since then. My stomach dropped. But the lights, what lights? We turned everything off when she moved. I showed them that night, 8 p.m. sharp. The bedroom light clicked on. The police checked the house again. Empty. No timers. No electrical issues. The daughter gave me her number. Asked me to call if anything else weird happened. That night, 10 p.m. Light off. Perfect timing. I started recording. Set up my phone on a tripod in my office. Captured the window, the light, the precise schedule. The footage showed it clearly. On at 8, off at 10. But something else, too. A shadow, moving past the window. Regular intervals, like someone pacing. I zoomed in, enhanced the video. The curtains were different in the recording. Old-fashioned floral print, but Mrs. Chen had plain white curtains. I'd seen them myself when the police searched the house. Called the daughter again. Asked about the curtains. Mum's old curtains. She took those down years ago, after Dad died. Said they reminded her too much of him. I kept recording, every night. The shadow kept pacing. The floral curtains kept shifting in a breeze that didn't exist. One recording showed something new. The shadow stopped at the window. Turned toward my house. Raised its arm. Waved, just like Mrs. Chen used to wave from her garden. I waved back when I watched the footage. The next recording showed the shadow waving at the exact moment I waved at my computer screen. I set up more cameras, different angles, different rooms in my house. All showed the same thing. Light on at 8, shadow pacing, floral curtains, wave at 9:17 p.m. But the cameras in Mrs. Chen's house showed empty rooms, white curtains, no movement. I started taking photos too. Digital, film, Polaroid, different times of day, daytime photos, empty house, white curtains, still and quiet, nighttime photos, floral curtains, shadow figure, wave at 9:17. I mapped the shadow's movements, same pattern every night, pace for 38 minutes, sit for 12, pace again, wave at 9:17, sit until 10, then darkness. Called the daughter again. That was Dad's routine, she said. Every night after dinner, he'd pace, worry about bills. Mum would make him sit, then he'd pace again. Always waved to me when I walked home from my evening shift at the diner. 917, passing their window. For 20 years, until he died. I asked when he died. 10 years ago. Mum changed everything after. New curtains. New routine. Said she couldn't stand seeing his old patterns anymore. I showed her the footage. She started crying. That's him. That's exactly how he moved. How did you? The lights came on as we watched. 8 p.m. sharp. Shadows started pacing. She reached toward my computer screen. The shadow stopped, turned, reached back, their fingers aligned through the glass. The daughter pulled back like she'd been shocked. The light in that room, she said. It was burned out. The week Dad died. Mum never replaced it. Said that room should stay dark. We walked to her mother's house, used her key. The bedroom was exactly like the footage. Floral curtains, old furniture, but only at night. In daylight, white curtains, empty room. I asked about Mrs. Chen's schedule, what time she used to go to bed. Mum, she was a night owl, midnight at least. Said she could never sleep before then, but the light always went out at 10. Dad's bedtime, he was strict about it. Even after he got sick, stuck in that room, lights out at 10. We checked county records, building history. 20 years ago, a fire, electrical, in that bedroom. Mr. Chen died. Mrs. Chen remodeled, changed everything. Except the lights schedule. I still record every night. Still watch the shadow pace. Mrs. Chen died last week, in her sleep. At the assisted living facility. The daughter called to tell me. Asked if the lights were still following their schedule. I checked the latest footage. 2 shadows now. One pacing. One in the chair by the window. Both wave at 9:17. The daughter sold me the house. Below market value. You're the only one who sees them, she said. Maybe they want you there. I moved in yesterday. The bedroom has white curtains in daylight. But at night, they're floral print again. 8 p.m. Lights on. Shadow paces. I pace with it now. Same path, same timing. Second shadow in the chair, watching us. 9:17. We all wave. 10 p.m. Darkness. Except now I see the light from the other side. See why it never varied. See why it had to be exactly on time. Some patterns can't be broken. Some routines are stronger than death. Some lights never really go out. And now I'm part of their pattern. Pacing, waving, right on schedule. Property records note. House remains occupied. Current resident maintains precise schedule. Lights on at 8 p.m. Off at 10 p.m. No variations observed. 3 shadows reported in bedroom window. All wave at 9:17 p.m. Story 3. I started tracking the time after the third identical commute. Bus 43. Downtown route. Every morning, exactly 43 minutes from my stop to the office. No matter the traffic, weather, or number of passengers. Always 43 minutes. I work in data analysis. Numbers matter to me. Patterns matter. And this pattern was impossible. Monday, heavy rain. 3 accidents on the route. Road construction, still 43 minutes. Tuesday, clear skies. No traffic. Every light green, 43 minutes. Wednesday, snowstorm. Buses running on delay. Mine arrived on schedule. 43 minutes. I started logging details. Passenger count, stops made. Traffic signals. Weather conditions. Road work. Everything that could affect travel time. The numbers made no sense. Some mornings, 15 passengers, 12 stops, 18 red lights, 43 minutes. Other mornings, 32 passengers, 6 stops, all green lights, 43 minutes. One morning, police chase blocking Main Street, major detour, 43 minutes. Next day, streets empty, no stops requested. Direct route, 43 minutes. I switched seats, front of the bus, back of the bus, middle. Time stayed constant. Changed when I boarded. 5 minutes earlier, 10 minutes later, trip still took 43 minutes. Then I noticed the passengers. Same woman in red coat, every day. Same seat, third row, window side. Same teenager with headphones, back corner. Always nodding to the same beat. Same elderly man with newspaper, front row, page 6. Every time I started recording their conversations. Going to be late today, red coat woman always said at the 5th stop. Traffic's terrible, weather's turning, newspaper man replied. Every day, even in sunshine. The teenager's music leaked through his headphones. Same song, same point in the chorus. Every time we turned onto Maple Street, I wrote down every word, every gesture, every movement. The pattern expanded. Red coat woman checked her phone at exactly 8:17 every day. Teenager coughed twice at 8:23 without fail. Newspaper man turned to page 7 at 8:29. Like clockwork, I started filming. Hidden camera in my laptop bag. Needed proof. The footage showed everything. Same people, same actions, same timing. But their clothes never changed. Their faces stayed identical. Day after day, like frames from the same video played on loop. I showed the footage to my friend Mark. Bus looks empty to me, he said. Just you and the driver. I watched it again with him. The passengers were there, clear as day. Red coat, headphones, newspaper. Mark saw nothing. I tried different cameras, different angles, different times. The footage never changed. Always showed the same scenes. Always 43 minutes. I asked the driver about the regulars. Just you, he said. Only regular on this route. But red coat woman sat 3 feet away. Checking her phone, 8:17 a.m. I recorded the driver too, his movements, his words. Watch your step, he said at every stop. Same tone, same pause between words. The steering wheel turned the same amount. Every corner, every day, his blinks matched. 7-second intervals, never changing. I counted my own blinks in the window reflection. 7 seconds, just like his. I tried breaking the pattern, stood up mid-route, tried to walk the aisle. My legs wouldn't move. Tried to speak to red coat woman. My mouth formed different words than I intended. Going to be late today, I heard myself say. Traffic's terrible. I checked the time, 8:17 a.m., just like her phone. I fought against it, tried to exit early, push the stop button, stand up, wave my arms. Nothing worked. My body moved on its own, following the pattern. The next day, I arrived early, waited at my stop, watched the bus approach. Through the windows, I saw myself, already seated, laptop bag in lap, counting passengers, taking notes. I boarded anyway, sat in my usual spot, next to myself. We both wrote the same notes, counted the same passengers, watched red coat woman check her phone at 8:17. The next morning, 4 of me waited at the stop, all boarded, all sat together, all watched the same patterns. Red coat woman multiplied 2, then the teenager, then newspaper man. The bus never got fuller, never got more crowded, Just the same space, overlapping itself. Same 43 minutes. I stopped taking notes. Didn't need to. I was the pattern now. Part of the loop. Yesterday, I tried a different route. Different bus. Number 43 pulled up anyway. I saw myself inside. All of me. Writing notes. Counting passengers. Watching patterns. Today, I stand at my stop, waiting for the bus. For the 43 minutes. For redcoat woman's phone check. For the teenager's cough. For newspaperman's page turn. For myself to arrive. Again and again. The bus approaches. Number 43. I can see through the windows. Every seat filled with me. Taking notes, counting time, following patterns. Perfect loops of moments. Never changing, never ending. Always 43 minutes. I board the bus, take my seat, check my watch, and begin again. Transit Authority report. Bus route 43 discontinued. No record of service for past 5 years. Stop locations show no sign of bus shelter or passenger waiting area. Security footage shows single passenger waiting at unmarked corner every morning. Passenger boards non-existent bus reappears 43 minutes later at downtown location. Multiple instances of same passenger observed simultaneously. Story 4. I've been leading cave tours for 6 years. Know every tunnel, every formation, every echo in Crystal Cave State Park. But 3 weeks ago, the cave started speaking back to me. Started saying my words before I could say them. It began with the standard safety briefing. 20 tourists gathered at the cave entrance. Me at the front with my flashlight and radio. Watch your step on the wet rocks, I started to say. But my voice came back first, from deeper in the cave. Same words, same tone. Same everything. The tourists didn't react. They nodded along, like this was normal. Like hearing the safety instructions twice was part of the show. I tried again. Stay with the group at all times. The echo beat me to it. Spoke my line before I opened my mouth. My hands felt cold. Sweat formed on my neck despite the cave's constant 54 degrees. I led the group inside, down the main passage, past the first chamber. Every word I planned to say bounced back to me first. On your left, you'll see stalactites formed over thousands of years. The echo spoke clearer now, closer, no longer from deep in the cave, more like from just around the corner. I switched up my script, said different things, made jokes I'd never used before. The echo knew them all, delivered each line perfectly, got the timing right, the inflection, even the small coughs between words. The tourists kept smiling, kept nodding, didn't seem to notice anything wrong. I checked my radio, called bass. Something strange happening in section B. The echo cut me off, spoke to bass first. In my voice, using my words, static answered. I led the group deeper. To the cathedral room, the big chamber where sound bounces 7 times. This room's acoustics are perfect, the echo said, using my voice from somewhere in the darkness. Let's test them out. I hadn't planned to say that, hadn't even thought it, but the words felt familiar in my mouth when I repeated them seconds later. The tourists spread out, tested the echoes. Each sound came back wrong. Their voices returned before they spoke. Their footsteps echoed before their feet moved. Their laughs bounced back while their mouths were still closed. I checked my watch. 30 minutes into a 60-minute tour. The echo checked its watch too. I heard the click of the button that lights up the display, saw the small blue glow from somewhere to my left. But when I turned, nothing was there. just darkness between the formations. Moving on to the wishing well, the echo announced. My mouth formed the same words a moment later. The echo's voice came from behind me now, close enough to feel breath on my neck. The tourists followed, still smiling, still nodding, their footsteps still echoing before they moved. In the wishing well chamber, I always let people toss pennies. Listen to the coins splash in the underground pool. The echo started the speech. Make a wish and toss your coin. I felt the words in my throat before I said them. Heard the splashes before the coins fell. Saw the ripples before the water's surface broke. 20 tourists reached into their pockets. 20 coins flashed in the beam of my flashlight. 20 splashes echoed up from the pool, but no coins fell. No hands moved. The tourists stood frozen, still reaching, still smiling. I tried to turn back, to radio for help. The echo spoke first. Don't be afraid. My mouth formed the words after. This is how it always happens. I felt my lips move against my will. Every tour, every day, the echo's voice came from right beside me now. You just usually don't notice. I turned, saw myself standing there, flashlight beam pointing up, tour guide uniform pressed and clean, mouth moving in sync with mine. You're the echo, it said. You always have been. The tourists began to move again. Coins fell, splashes followed, but the sounds came from above now, from the surface, from the real cave, where the real tour was happening. I looked up through the rock, saw another group, another me, leading them through the motions, saying the words I would echo, making the moves I would copy, always 30 seconds behind, always repeating, always echoing. The other me looked down, through solid rock, through darkness, through time, ready to switch, it asked. I felt my head nod, felt my body move up, through stone, through earth, through reality, into the real cave, where I led the real tour. While below, my echo learned the new script, practiced the new moves, prepared to become me next time. Now I lead tours and listen for my echo, for my voice coming back, for my movements being copied, for my future self learning to replace me. Sometimes I see tourists looking down into the dark spaces between formations, at their own echoes learning to be real. I keep leading tours, keep saying my lines, keep moving through the cave, but I know what waits below, in the echo cave, in the mirror cave, in the practice cave, where we learn to become real. I hear the other tours too. Above me, below me, beside me, infinite caves, infinite tours, infinite echoes becoming guides, infinite guides becoming echoes, each one practicing, each one learning, each one waiting to switch. The tourists don't notice. They smile, they nod, they toss their coins. They don't see their own echoes, don't hear their voices coming back wrong, don't feel themselves practicing to be real. But I notice, I watch, I listen, I wait for the next switch, for the next tour, for the next echo, for my next turn to learn. In the mirror cave, in the practice cave, in the echo cave, where we all start, where we all return, where we all learn to be real. Park Service note: Crystal Cave tours continue as scheduled. Multiple guide positions filled by single employee. Echo effect reported in all chambers. Tourists describe identical experiences regardless of guide or time of day. Security footage shows overlapping tours occupying same space. Guide remains on duty. echo remains consistent. Story 5. The first package showed up on my third day as a delivery driver. Small brown box, standard shipping label, addressed to me. But the delivery address was for my first stop of the day. I almost missed it. Set it down with the other packages for that house. Caught my name as I was scanning labels. James Chen, my address. But delivered to 1247 Maple Street. The shipping date was wrong too. Next Tuesday, 6 days in the future. I opened it during my lunch break. Inside, my old house key. Lost it 2 years ago. Moving apartments. The next day, another package. My name. Wrong address. Future shipping date. Inside, my college ID card. Disappeared during finals week. 5 years ago. Third day, my grandmother's watch. Left it on a bus. 8 years back. Fourth day, baseball mitt from Little League. Forgot it at the park. 15 years gone. Each package, something I'd lost. Each shipping date, from the future. Each delivery address, next stop on my route. I started logging them. Date found. Contents. Shipping information. The pattern emerged fast. Items appeared in reverse order of when I lost them. Most recent losses came first. Childhood items came later. The shipping dates moved further into the future. 1 week ahead. 1 month. 1 year. 5 years. 10. The packages got bigger too. First ones fit in my hand. Then shoebox size. Then microwave size. Today's package needs 2 people to lift. I haven't opened it yet. The shipping date is 50 years in the future. My hands shake when I look at the label. Something feels wrong about the weight, about the shape, about the way it shifts when I move it. The other drivers notice now. Notice the extra packages. Notice my name on every route. Notice how they get bigger. Special deliveries, they ask. I nod. Don't tell them about the contents, about the impossible shipping dates, about the growing dread in my stomach. Tomorrow's package takes up half my truck. Shipping dates, century from now. Address, my final stop. I can hear something inside. Moving, breathing, waiting. The supervisor checked my truck this morning. Saw the giant package. Not on the manifest, he said. Showed him the shipping label. His face went white. That's not possible, he said. The date on his computer, same as the shipping date. 100 years ahead. He saw his name below mine on the label. Both of us, listed as contents. I'm parked outside my last delivery now. The package fills the whole back of the truck. The label shows tomorrow's date. Lists everyone I know as contents. I can hear them all inside. Moving, breathing, waiting. My hands won't stop shaking. The scanner won't read the barcode. The tracking number doesn't exist yet. The shipping date keeps changing. Moving further ahead. Years. Decades. Centuries. The package grows with each update. Stretches the truck's metal. Pushes against the walls. I have to deliver it. Have to follow protocol. Have to scan. Have to obtain signature. Have to complete the route. But the package contains everything now. Everyone. Every place. Every moment. All waiting to be delivered. All lost and found again. All shipped from a future that grows more distant with each breath. The label shows my name. Shows everyone's name. Shows tomorrow and yesterday and forever. Shows this moment being lost. Shows this moment being found. Shows this moment being delivered. I reach for the handle. The truck creaks. The package shifts. The future waits. I open the door. Final delivery log entry. Package undeliverable. Future date unreachable. Contents, universal. Driver status, lost. Manifest notes, everything returns, everything arrives. Everything delivers itself. Story 6. I never wanted to work security. I needed the money. That's what I kept telling myself during those first few nights at Oakwood Office Park. Walking the empty corridors with nothing but the buzz of fluorescent lights and the click of my boots on tile. The orientation was basic. 3 buildings, 4 floors each, connected by covered walkways, check doors, monitor cameras, log anything unusual. Simple enough for $18 an hour. The day shift guy, Marcus, showed me the routes and handed over the keys with a shrug. Night shift's easy, he said. Nothing ever happens here. I believed him for the first week. I'd do my rounds every 2 hours, checking doors and watching the cameras between patrols. The cleaning crew came in at 11 p.m., did their thing, and left by 2 a.m. Standard stuff. Then I started noticing things. Small things at first. On my 3rd Tuesday, I found the door to Suite 312 unlocked. I knew I'd locked it during my previous round. I always double-checked the handle. The cleaning crew had already left for the night. I made a note in the log and locked it again. The next night, same door. Unlocked again on my 3 a.m. round. I checked the security footage. The camera showed me locking it at 1 a.m. No one had entered the hallway since then. But there it was, handle turning freely in my hand at 3 a.m. I started paying more attention to the cameras after that. Most nights, they worked fine. But sometimes, usually between 2 and 4 a.m., the feed from certain hallways would glitch. Just static for a few seconds, then back to normal. Always the same corridors on the 3rd and 4th floors of Building B. I mentioned it to Marcus during shift change. He yawned and said it would handle it. But when I checked with them, they had no record of any camera issues. The cleaning crew started bothering me too. Not the people themselves. They seemed normal enough, nodding hello as they pushed their carts around. It was their timing. According to the sign-in logs, they arrived at 11 p.m. and left at 2 a.m. every night. But I'd see them on camera at odd hours. A glimpse of someone pushing a vacuum at 3:30 a.m. or a cart rolling past when the crew had supposedly left hours ago. I started tracking their movements. The sign-in sheet showed 5 people each night: Maria, John, Pete, Sarah, and Tom. But the cameras never showed all 5 at once. I'd see 3 or 4 of them working, but never the full crew together. One night, I decided to check their personnel files. The office kept copies in the security room, standard procedure for all building employees. The photos looked normal at first glance, but then I noticed the dates. Maria's ID photo was from 1992. She looked exactly the same on camera as she did in that 30-year-old photo. John's was from 1987. Sarah's from 1984. I pulled up the live feed. There was Maria pushing her cart down the 2nd floor hallway. Same face, same hair, same everything as her photo from 1992. My hands were shaking as I dug deeper into the files. Previous security guard reports started showing patterns. Guards quitting abruptly. No explanation given. Some just stopped showing up. Their final log entries were normal. Nothing unusual noted. They just never came back for their next shift. I started bringing coffee from home after that. Lots of it. I didn't want to risk nodding off. Not even for a minute. I changed my patrol routes, varying the timing. Sometimes clockwise, sometimes counterclockwise. Different floors in different orders. The unlocked doors continued. Not just Suite 312 anymore. Random offices throughout Building B would be unlocked during my rounds, even though camera footage showed them securely locked hours earlier. The camera glitches got worse. Longer periods of static. Sometimes the feed would jump, showing the same empty hallway from slightly different angles, like someone was adjusting the camera while I watched. Then I started hearing the vacuums at night. After the cleaning crew had gone, the sound would echo through the halls, the distinctive whir of industrial vacuums. But when I'd checked the source, the halls were empty. The sound would stop as I approached, only to start again in a different part of the building. One night, I caught a glimpse of someone entering the elevator in Building B. It was 3:45 a.m. The cleaning crew had signed out at 2 a.m. As usual, I rushed to the elevator, but when the doors opened, it was empty. I checked the camera feed. Static. I started making excuses not to patrol Building B at night. I'd spend extra time checking buildings A and C, telling myself I'd get to B eventually. But every time I looked at those hallways on camera, something felt wrong. The angles seemed off. The shadows too dark in some places, too light in others. The breaking point came during my final week. I was watching the feeds when I saw Maria vacuuming the 4th floor of Building B. Normal enough, except for two things. First, it was 4 a.m., 2 hours after sign out. Second, she was vacuuming the ceiling. The camera showed her clearly, working the vacuum back and forth across the ceiling tiles, her feet firmly on the ground, defying gravity. She turned and looked directly into the camera. Her face was the same as her 1992 photo, but her eyes were completely white. I didn't finish my shift that night. I left my keys and badge on the desk and walked out. Called my supervisor the next morning and quit. He didn't sound surprised. That was 3 weeks ago. I've been reading about Oakwood Office Park since then. Turns out it was built on the site of an old hospital. The kind they used to send people to and forget about them. The kind that burned down in the middle of the night in 1983, with a lot of people still inside. I drove past the office park yesterday. Had to know if they'd replaced me yet. The security position available sign was still out front. Through the lobby windows, I could see Maria pushing her vacuum across the floor. The office park's website lists the cleaning crew supervisor as Maria Hernandez. Started working there in 1982. The photo shows her exactly as I remember. Same face, same hair, same everything. She doesn't look a day older than her ID photo from 1992. I keep telling myself I made the right choice, leaving. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder about those unlocked doors. About what was behind them. About where all those other security guards really went. Yesterday, I got a call from an unknown number. When I answered, all I could hear was the sound of a vacuum cleaner. It was coming from the ceiling. I blocked the number, changed my locks, bought better curtains. But I know it won't matter. Because last night, checking my email, I found a job application confirmation from Oakwood Office Park. I never applied. The position starts next week, night shift, Building B. The attachment was a photo of me, taken through my bedroom window. In the reflection of the glass, behind my shoulder, I can see Maria. She's vacuuming my ceiling. Her eyes are white, and she's smiling. I haven't slept since then. Can't sleep, won't sleep. Because I know, if I do, I'll wake up back in that security office. Back in Building B, and this time, I'll be the one in those personnel files. Another photo that never ages. Another name on the sign-in sheet. Another guard who just disappeared. The vacuum cleaner sound is coming from upstairs now. I live in a single-story house. I think I hear footsteps in the hallway. The sound of a cleaning cart's wheels. Maybe I should have looked behind those unlocked doors. Maybe I should have followed Maria that night, seen where she really goes after 2 a.m. Maybe then I'd understand. Or maybe I'd be like the others. Just another file in the cabinet. Just another face that never ages. The footsteps are getting closer. The vacuum sound is right above me. I have to go now. My shift starts soon. Building B is waiting, and Maria needs help cleaning the ceiling. Story 7. The first echo happened during a client call. I was in my new home office, explaining marketing strategies to a startup founder, when my voice bounced back strangely. Not the usual quick reflection you get in an empty room. This echo was deeper, longer, as if the sound was traveling down a long corridor before returning. I bought the Victorian house in October. Good price, solid structure, perfect for my consulting business. 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a converted attic office. The real estate agent mentioned something about unique acoustics due to the architecture. Made sense at the time. I set up my workspace in the attic. Desk by the dormer window, monitors against the wall, sound dampening panels for professional calls. Standard home office setup. Everything worked fine for the first month. Then came that echo. I was saying quarterly projections when I heard it. My voice came back wrong. Too deep, too slow. The client didn't notice, kept nodding along on Zoom, but I heard it clearly. The words stretched out like they were being pulled through something. I blamed the attic's shape at first. Victorian houses have weird angles. But the echo happened again the next day. Different words, same strange delay. Like my voice was traveling much further than the room's dimensions allowed. I started recording my calls. Just audio at first, to check the acoustics. Playing them back, I noticed something off. Between my sentences, there were fragments of other conversations, words I hadn't said yet, numbers from presentations I hadn't given. In one recording, I heard myself discussing Q4 budgets with a client I hadn't even pitched to yet. 2 days later, I had that exact conversation. Same words, same numbers, same client. The echoes spread to other rooms. I'd be making coffee in the kitchen, not saying anything, and hear my voice discussing deliverables from upstairs. But when I checked, the office was empty. The house was empty. I set up more recording equipment, placed microphones in different rooms. The results made no sense. Sound waves that shouldn't exist in spaces that size. Reverberations that lasted minutes instead of milliseconds. Winter came, shorter days, longer nights. More client calls, more deadlines. The house felt bigger somehow. Halls seemed longer, rooms felt deeper. I'd walk from the kitchen to my office, counting steps. 23 steps one day, 28 the next, 35 the day after. The recordings got worse. I'd hear full conversations between versions of myself, past me arguing with future me about projects I hadn't started, future me warning past me about missed deadlines that hadn't happened yet. I stopped going out. Too much work. Too many calls. Clients kept booking consultations. The house kept growing. 50 steps from kitchen to office now, then 60. The stairs stretched longer each day. New corners appeared where straight walls used to be. My voice was everywhere, echoing through empty rooms, discussing projects, arguing about strategies, warning about mistakes. I couldn't tell which conversations were happening now and which were echoes of things to come. I tried mapping the sounds, put markers on the walls where the echoes seemed strongest. The pattern made no sense. According to the markers, the house's interior space was larger than the entire property lot. One morning, I woke up to my own voice giving a presentation in the kitchen. I followed the sound, found myself upstairs instead. The kitchen was gone, just more halls, more rooms, more echoes. The client calls continued. Had to keep working. But now I heard 3 or 4 versions of myself on each call. Present me talking to the client, past me arguing with the strategy, future me listing all the ways it would go wrong. I started leaving recorded messages for myself, warnings about which halls led nowhere, which rooms had shifted overnight, which echoes to ignore. But when I played them back, the warnings were different. My voice describing places in the house I hadn't found yet. The windows showed the same view no matter which room I was in. Same street, same trees, same time of day. I tried calling out to neighbors. My voice came back from different directions, different times, different versions of the same warnings. Yesterday, I heard myself screaming from the basement, ran down to check, found a new hallway instead. The screams led me through door after door, room after room, each one larger than the last, each one full of echoes. The power went out an hour ago, laptop battery dying, can still hear the echoes. Dozens of my voices now, having conversations I remember, conversations I haven't had yet, conversations I'll never have. The walls are moving. I can hear them shifting. Rooms rearranging themselves in the dark. My voices are getting louder, warning me, arguing with me, agreeing with me, all at once. The echoes are clearer now. I can understand what all my voices are saying. They're telling me where I went wrong, when I should have left, which door I shouldn't have opened, which hall I shouldn't have followed. There's a light under one of the doors. Wasn't there before. I can hear myself on the other side. The version of me from 2 months ago, just moving in, just setting up the office, just about to have that first client call. I should warn him, tell him about the echoes, about the rooms that move, about the halls that lead nowhere. But I know it won't matter, because I can hear another version of me in the next room. The one from 3 months from now. He's still giving client presentations, still recording warnings, still trying to map the ever-growing spaces. The laptop screen is flickering, battery almost gone. The echoes are getting closer. I can hear footsteps now, my footsteps, from different times, different versions of the same endless walks through expanding rooms. One of my voices just told me to run. Another told me it's too late. A third is reciting client deliverables like nothing's wrong. A fourth is mapping new corridors that shouldn't exist. The laptop's about to die. The house is completely dark now, but I can hear myself coming, all of myself. Past, present, future, getting closer. Voices overlapping, echoing, warning, screaming. I think I finally understand the acoustics the real estate agent mentioned, why the price was so good, why the previous owner left so quickly. The house isn't echoing, it's collecting versions of me from different times, different choices, different paths through these impossible rooms. I hear myself at the door now, multiple footsteps, multiple voices, multiple versions of the same story. The laptop screen goes black, but I don't need it anymore. I have so many voices now, and they all know the way out. If only I'd listened to them sooner. If only I'd understood what the echoes were trying to tell me. If only I'd realized that in this house, every conversation happens at once. Past, present, future. All speaking, all warning, all echoing. Forever, I think I'll record one last message. One last warning. For the next version of me who finds this place. But I already know what it will say. Because I can hear it echoing from the next room, in my voice. In all my voices. Don't take that first client call. The echoes are getting louder. I should have known, in a house like this, every word stays forever. Every voice finds its way back. Every echo leads home. Even this one, story 8. I left my sister's house at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Clear day, good visibility, tank full of gas. I'd driven this route dozens of times, 4 hours straight down I-70, then the exit to Route 36, another hour home. Simple. The first 100 miles went normally, traffic was light, my podcast played. The GPS showed my usual route highlighted in blue. Everything was fine until I passed the Big Valley truck stop. I'd stopped there on my way up 3 days ago. The sign had been new then. Bright red letters, fresh paint on the building. Now the sign was faded. Rust streaks ran down the poles. The windows looked grimy. I checked my phone. Still 2:47 p.m. I'd only been driving 45 minutes. The sun hung just above the horizon, like it was about to set. But that wasn't right. In October, sunset wasn't until 6:30. The mile markers started bothering me next. I passed 115, then 114, counting down like always. But after 113, the next marker read 127, then 92, then 156. The numbers jumped randomly. No pattern I could find. My GPS recalculated. The screen showed my location. Then the blue route line disappeared, reappeared, twisted into new shapes. The estimated arrival time kept changing. For 15 p.m., then 7:30 p.m., then 2:15 p.m. yesterday. I pulled over at the next rest stop, had to check my map, figure out where I was. The rest stop looked familiar, same basic layout as all highway stops, but the building was different. Older, the bricks were weathered, dark with age. Vines grew up the walls. Inside, the vending machines were models I hadn't seen in years. The snacks had old packaging designs, Coca-Cola cans from the 90s, candy bars in wrappers I remembered from childhood. The bathroom signs were yellow with age, corners curling. My phone showed no signal. The GPS was stuck recalculating, and the sun still hung in the same position, low on the horizon, neither setting nor rising. Back on the highway, things got worse. I passed the same Big Valley truck stop again. The sign was completely rusted now. The windows were boarded up. The parking lot was cracked, weeds growing through the asphalt. The mile markers made even less sense. Numbers I'd seen before appeared in different orders. Some were so faded I couldn't read them. Others looked brand new, the metal still shiny. I tried counting the minutes between markers, sometimes 30 seconds, sometimes 5 minutes. Sometimes the markers appeared every few feet, numbers jumping wildly to 82, 145, 37, 203. The next rest stop was the same one I'd just left. Had to be. Same layout, same building. But it looked decades older. The roof had partially collapsed. The vines had taken over completely. The vending machines were empty, glass clouded with age. My watch said 3:15 p.m. My phone said 2:47 p.m. The sun hadn't moved. I kept driving. Had to get home. But the highway felt wrong. The asphalt changed texture every few miles. Sometimes fresh and black. Sometimes old and crumbling. Sometimes just packed dirt with fading lane lines. Other cars appeared occasionally. Mostly old models. Cars from the 80s, 70s, even earlier. They passed me or I passed them, but I never saw them again. Never saw them exit. They just disappeared in my rearview mirror. The Big Valley truck stop appeared again. The building was gone now. Just a concrete foundation, a few rusted poles where the sign had been. The parking lot was gone, replaced by wild grass. I tried a different exit. Route 36 came up, familiar green sign. But when I took the ramp, it led back to I-70. Different mile marker, same highway stretching endlessly ahead. My gas gauge hadn't moved, still full tank. The odometer hadn't changed either, stuck at the same mileage as when I left my sister's house. The sun still hung there, just above the horizon. The same angle, the same intensity, for over 2 hours now. The shadows it cast didn't move. I passed another rest stop, the same one again. This time it looked new. Fresh paint, modern vending machines, clean windows. Inside, the snacks had packaging I didn't recognize. Designs I'd never seen, brands that didn't exist. My phone was working again. The screen showed 2:47 p.m. All my previous calls were gone. My photos were gone. The GPS app showed me driving on a road that didn't exist, according to the map. Back on the highway, the mile markers started going backward. 115, 116, 117, then random again. 42, 189, 73. Some of them were so old, the numbers had worn away completely. I saw the truck stop coming up again. My hands gripped the steering wheel harder. This time, there was nothing there. No foundation, no poles, no parking lot. Just empty field. But in the distance, I saw construction equipment. Workers laying foundations, building something new. The sun hadn't moved. My gas gauge still read full. The odometer hadn't changed. I drove past more rest stops. Sometimes old, sometimes new, sometimes in between. Always the same layout. Always empty. The vending machines showed food prices in cents, then dollars, then currencies I didn't recognize. The highway changed again. 4 lanes became 2, then 6, then back to 4. The surface shifted from asphalt to concrete to gravel to dirt and back again. I tried calling my sister. The phone connected, but her voice sounded wrong. Sometimes younger, sometimes older. Sometimes she didn't remember me visiting. Sometimes she said I was still there, sleeping in her guest room. The mile markers kept changing. The numbers didn't make sense anymore. Some showed dates instead of miles. 1985, 2047, 1922. I passed the truck stop again. It was there, but different. The sign read, Valley Stop Now. Then Big Val on the next pass. Then Valley Big Stop. The building changed shape, changed size, changed location. Sometimes it wasn't a truck stop at all, but a farm, a house, a field. My watch had stopped at 3:15 p.m. My phone was stuck at 2:47 p.m. The GPS showed me driving in circles, in straight lines, in impossible patterns across the map. The sun still hadn't moved. Other cars appeared less frequently now. When they did, they were models I didn't recognize. Too old or too new. The drivers never looked over, never acknowledged me. I tried another exit, and another. They all led back to I-70. Always a different section, different mile markers, different time periods, but the same highway. The rest stops kept appearing. I stopped counting how many times I'd seen the same building in different states of decay or renovation. The vending machines showed prices in different currencies, different decades, different worlds. My gas gauge hadn't moved in hours. The odometer was frozen. The engine temperature stayed perfectly steady. I checked my phone again, still 2:47 p.m. But the date had changed. Yesterday, next week, last year, 10 years ago. The numbers flickered too fast to read. The sun hung in place, mocking me. I passed the truck stop one more time. The sign was different now. It showed my name. The building looked like my house. The parking lot was my driveway. I blinked and it was gone. Just empty fields again. Construction equipment in the distance. Workers laying foundations. The mile markers showed impossible numbers now. Negative miles, fractions, binary code, blank metal squares where numbers should be. My hands shook on the steering wheel. The gas pedal felt soft under my foot. The brake pedal felt harder. The gear shift moved through positions that didn't exist. The highway stretched ahead, endless and empty. The sun cast shadows that didn't match its position. The rest stops appeared and disappeared, aging and renewing themselves like time-lapse photography. I'm still driving. The sun hasn't moved. The gas gauge reads full. The odometer hasn't changed. My phone shows 2:47 p.m. I keep passing the same places, but they're different every time. Older, newer, never built, long destroyed, being built again. I can't stop driving. The highway won't let me. The sun won't set. Time won't move. I think I understand now. I never left my sister's house. I never started driving. I'm still there, getting ready to leave at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. Or maybe I've been driving forever. Maybe I'll always be driving. Maybe the highway is the only real thing left. The mile markers are changing again. The truck stop is ahead. The sun hangs motionless, and I keep driving, because I can't remember how to stop. Story 9. I first noticed him on the 7:15 to downtown. Grey suit, brown briefcase, always sitting 3 rows behind me. I ride this route every weekday, have for 2 years. You get to know the regulars. But I'd never seen him before that Monday in March. The next day, I took the 6:45 instead. Early meeting, he was there too. Same suit, same briefcase, same distance behind me. I checked when I got off at 7th Street. He got off too. Kept that exact distance as I walked to my office building. Could be coincidence. Lots of people work downtown. Lots of people wear grey suits. But Wednesday, I took the 7:45. Late start. There he was again. 3 rows back. I started watching him in the window reflections. He never read anything. Never looked at a phone. Just sat, briefcase on his lap, staring straight ahead. His face was ordinary. The kind you'd forget immediately. But something about his stillness made my skin crawl. Thursday, I decided to test something. I took the 8:15 from a different stop, 6 blocks from my usual one. He was already on the bus when I boarded, 3 rows back. I watched the other passengers. They moved around him like he wasn't there. When an elderly woman sat next to him, she spread her shopping bags into the space he occupied. Through him, almost Friday, I brought my phone. Held it up like I was taking a selfie, but really I was watching him in the screen. The seat behind me was empty in the reflection, but I could feel him there. 3 rows back, always 3 rows. The weekend was normal. No grey suits, no briefcases. But Monday morning, there he was again. This time, I noticed something new. His suit matched mine exactly. Same shade of grey, same cut. I'd bought mine 2 days ago. I started taking photos on my morning commute. Secret shots of the other passengers, angled to catch him in the background. At my desk, I reviewed them. He wasn't in any of them. Just empty seats where I knew he'd been sitting. The security cameras in my office lobby told the same story. I watched the footage from my arrivals. Just me walking in, no one behind me. But every morning, I'd felt him there. 3 steps back, I switched buses again. Different route entirely, across town. 45-minute detour. He found me anyway. Same suit, same distance. Now his briefcase matched mine too. Brown leather, brass clasps. I'd had mine for years. Other things started changing. His shoes were the same as mine. His watch, his tie. Each day, some new detail aligned. I saw him more clearly in the window reflections now. His hair was graying in the same pattern as mine. His posture matched my posture. I tried taking a cab. He was in the back seat of the cab behind us. 3 cars back. Always 3. The subway was worse. He stood on the platform, 3 people behind me. When I looked in the scratched steel walls of the train, his reflection was clearer than mine. The photos got stranger. He still didn't appear in them, but now there were gaps in the crowd. Person-shaped empty spaces, 3 spots behind me. The security footage started showing the same thing. Blank spots moving through the lobby, following my path exactly. I stopped going to work for a week. Stayed home, blinds drawn. Ordered delivery. But I saw him on the street through the gaps in the blinds. Standing there, waiting. His suit was my old suit now. The one I'd thrown out last month. When I finally went back to work, he was there. Of course he was there. On the bus, 3 rows back. But now, other passengers were starting to blur around him, like they were less real than he was. I asked the woman next to me if she saw him. She looked confused. Looked right at him, through him. Shook her head. But when she turned away, her outline was softer, less defined. The security guard at my office had the same reaction. Looked right at the empty space behind me. Saw nothing. His edges started blurring too. That's when I noticed my reflection was changing. In the lobby windows, in my phone screen, in the bathroom mirror. My outline was sharp, too sharp. His was sharper. Everyone else was becoming fog. I tried a different city. Took a train to hours north. He was in the next car, 3 rows back. When I checked into the hotel, he took the room 3 doors down. I could hear his footsteps at night, matching my pace when I paced the room. The hotel security footage showed me walking alone down empty hallways. But the hallways weren't empty. Other guests passed me. Real guests, solid people. But in the footage, they were just smudges. Blurs of color and movement around my too sharp outline. And behind me, 3 steps back, that person-shaped void. I came back home. Had to face it. Had to understand. The bus ride back. I watched him in the window. His face was closer to mine now. Not just similar, identical. His movements matched mine exactly. When I blinked, he blinked. When I shifted, he shifted. The other passengers were almost invisible. Just vague shapes moving through mist. But he was clearer than ever. 3 rows back. Always 3. I started seeing him in every reflection. Shop windows, puddles, chrome fixtures. Sometimes his mouth moved differently than mine. Sometimes he smiled when I didn't. The photos on my phone changed. Old pictures, years old, showed that empty space behind me now. 3 steps back in every shot. Family photos, vacation photos, school photos. He'd always been there. I just hadn't noticed. My co-workers stopped talking to me. Maybe they couldn't see me anymore. Maybe I was becoming like him, just a sharp-edged void in their foggy world. Last week, I tried one last experiment. Took the bus to the end of the line. Last stop, middle of nowhere. Just me and him, 3 rows back. I waited until the driver left, turned around, walked toward him. 3 rows, 2 rows, 1. He stood up, walked backward as I walked forward, keeping the distance, always 3 rows. I ran, he ran backward. I stopped, he stopped. 3 rows, always 3. The driver came back, looked through both of us, started the bus. We rode back in silence. Me in front, him behind. 3 rows of blurred, foggy almost people between us. This morning, I checked my reflection. His face moved before mine did. His eyes opened before I opened mine. His hand reached up before I reached up. The bus is coming now. I can see him already, 3 rows back. But his reflection is solid. Mine is starting to blur. I understand now. He's not following me. I'm following him. 3 rows back. I always have been. The other passengers fade more each day. The world gets foggier, but he stays sharp, clear, real. Soon the fog will take me to. I'll blur like the others, fade into the mist. And he'll find someone new to follow him. 3 rows back. Always 3 rows. The bus is here. He's waiting. 3 rows back. Where I've always been, where I'll always be, until I fade completely, and someone else notices him. 3 rows ahead. Story 10. The key was small and silver, attached to a red plastic tag marked Unit 247. My grandmother's lawyer handed it to me, along with a letter. She was very specific, he said. The unit had to go to you. I'd never known my grandmother had a storage unit. She died last month at 89, leaving me her house and most of her possessions. But this key was a surprise. The storage facility sat on the edge of town, rows of orange doors stretching into the distance. Unit 247 was in the back corner, away from the other units. The lock clicked open smoothly, like it had been recently oiled. Inside, cardboard boxes lined the walls, each one labeled in my grandmother's neat handwriting. Home movies, 1960 to 1969. 10 boxes total, all Super 8 films. I brought them home. Set up my grandfather's old projector in the basement. The first film was dated June 1962, labeled New House Construction. The footage showed a residential street, my street, but the houses were different. Newer, the film focused on one house in particular, my house, under construction. Workers moved around the foundation. Trucks delivered lumber. Walls went up. But something was wrong. The cars in the background were modern, recent models, not 1960s vehicles. The workers wore current styles. One had a smartphone clipped to his belt. I checked the film canister again. June 1962. The film stock looked old, felt old. But what I was watching had to be recent footage. The next film was labeled Neighborhood, July 1963. It showed my current neighbors, the Andersons next door, walking their dog, the Rileys across the street, getting their mail. All of them exactly as they looked now, in 2024, not in 1963. My hands shook as I loaded the third reel. Family picnic. August 1964. The park down the street. Modern playground equipment. Current cars in the parking lot. And there, in the background, a man in a blue shirt. Me. It was me, standing by the swings. Exactly as I'd looked last weekend when I'd taken my dog to that park. I watched every film, 10 boxes, hundreds of reels. Each one labeled with a 1960s date. Each one showing current scenes. My neighborhood, my neighbors, my daily routines. In every film, I appeared somewhere in the background. Getting coffee at the corner shop, checking my mail, walking to my car. All recent memories, captured on film decades before they happened. The final box held a single reel. House completion, December 1969. I threaded it through the projector. The image flickered to life. My house, finished. But not as it looked in the 60s, as it looked right now. The fresh paint job from last spring. The new windows I'd installed in summer. The garage door I'd replaced in fall. The camera panned across the front yard, stopped on the oak tree, zoomed in on a figure standing beneath it. My grandmother, not as she'd looked in the 60s, not as she'd looked when she died, but as she'd looked in her 40s when these films were made. She stared directly into the camera, raised her hand, pointed at the house. The image jumped, static, then cleared. My bedroom window, current day, late at night, me sleeping. The camera zoomed closer, closer. Through the glass, the footage ended. I sat in the dark basement. The projector fan hummed. Outside, a car door slammed. I ran upstairs, looked out my bedroom window. A figure stood beneath the oak tree. The same spot from the film. My grandmother, young, holding a camera. She raised her hand, pointed at my window. The camera's lens glinted in the streetlight. I dropped the curtain, backed away. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. Watch the rest. But I had watched them all. Every box, every reel. I went back to the basement, checked the boxes again. In the bottom of the last one, a new reel. The label read, Tomorrow. My hands wouldn't stop shaking as I loaded it. The projector whirred to life. My house, daytime. The camera moved up the walkway, through the front door, down the hall, to my bedroom. The door opened. I turned off the projector, ran upstairs, locked every door, every window. Sleep came eventually. Deep, heavy sleep. I woke to the sound of film running through sprockets. My bedside lamp was on. A projector sat on my dresser. Running, on the wall, footage played. My bedroom, right now, me in bed, from an angle behind my head. I turned around. My grandmother stood in the corner, young, smiling, camera raised. I've been waiting, she said. Waiting for you to find them. The films, I said. How? Family tradition. She adjusted the lens. Your great-grandmother filmed me. I filmed your mother. Now I'm filming you. But you're dead, only in your timeline. The camera word, in mine, I'm still making movies. Still watching. Still recording what needs to be recorded. What needs to be recorded. She lowered the camera. The moment it changes. The moment you take my place. The moment you start making your own films. From downstairs, another projector started running. That's your first one, she said. Playing right now. Want to watch it with me? I shook my head. Tried to get up. Couldn't move. Don't worry, she said. The paralysis is temporary. Just until the transfer is complete. Just until you understand your role. The projector on my dresser clicked. The film ended. Time to make movies, my grandmother said. She held out the camera. My arm raised against my will, took it. Through the viewfinder, I saw myself on the bed, saw my grandmother fading. Start with the past, her voice whispered. Film what's already happened. Then move on to what will happen, what must happen, how. My voice shook. The camera knows. It always knows. She was gone. The paralysis lifted. I stood. The camera felt heavy in my hands. Right downstairs, the other projector still ran, playing my first film. I walked down to watch it, to see what I would film. What I had already filmed. What I would always film. The camera word in my hands. Ready to record. Ready to show me when and where to point it. Ready to continue the family tradition. Through the viewfinder, I saw movement by the oak tree. A figure. Young woman, my granddaughter, maybe. Not born yet, but already there. Already waiting, already watching. Through her own camera, recording me, recording everything. The way it was, the way it is, the way it will be, the way it must be. I raised the camera and started filming. Story 11. I first saw them during our Tuesday morning stand-up. Just another face in the grid of video boxes, sitting quietly in the background of Sarah's call. I thought they were a family member walking past. That happens all the time in remote meetings. But they were there again on Wednesday. Different location, different video feed. This time in the background of Mike's home office. Standing still, watching, I took a screenshot. Wanted to check later if my eyes were playing tricks. They probably were. 2 years of remote work can do strange things to your mind. The screenshot showed 19 people in the meeting. All the usual faces. But when I zoomed in on Mike's background, the figure was gone. Just an empty doorway. Thursday's project review. 23 attendees. The figure appeared in John's video feed, standing by his bookshelf. Nobody else seemed to notice. John kept talking about quarterly targets, while this person stood motionless behind him. Another screenshot, same result. The figure didn't show up in the image. I started recording meetings, not just work calls, family chats, virtual happy hours, game nights with friends. The figure began appearing in all of them, always in someone else's feed, always in the background, always still. Each time, they were closer to the camera than before. I reviewed hours of recordings. The figure never appeared in them, but I saw them during every live call, standing, watching, moving from feed to feed. Week 2, Monday morning stand-up. The figure stood directly behind Tom, close enough to touch his shoulder. Tom didn't react. Nobody mentioned it. Did anyone else see that? I typed in the chat. Someone behind Tom. No responses. The meeting continued. I messaged Tom privately afterward. Asked if anyone else was home with him. He lived alone, he said. Always had. Tuesday, the figure appeared in 3 different feeds during the same meeting. Behind Sarah, then Dave, then Lisa. Each time closer to their cameras. Each time unnoticed by everyone else. I started taking notes, tracking their appearances. Which feeds, what times, how close they got. The pattern made no sense. They moved between feeds randomly. Showed up in calls across different platforms. Zoom, Teams, Google Meet, didn't matter. But they were always getting closer. Week 3, the figure stood next to people now, right beside them in the frame. Close enough that they should have felt someone there. Should have seen them in their own preview window. Nobody did. I tried screenshots from different devices. My phone, my tablet, my laptop. The figure never appeared in any of them. Thursday night, family video call with my parents. The figure stood behind my mum, reached out, touched her shoulder. She didn't react. I ended the call, turned off my camera, sat in the dark. My phone lit up. Text from an unknown number. I see you. I blocked the number. Another text, different number. I see you blocked that too. A third number. I see you seeing me. Week 4, Monday meeting. The figure appeared in every video feed except mine, standing behind each person, touching shoulders, leaning close to faces. Everyone kept talking like nothing was wrong. I turned off my camera, left it off for all calls. Tuesday morning, woke up to emails from my team. Screenshots of yesterday's meeting. "Who's that behind you?" they asked. The screenshots showed my video feed, even though my camera was off. In the background, the figure stood. Watching, I checked my camera settings. Definitely off. Opened Zoom, my preview window was black. But in the next meeting, everyone could see me. See my home office. See the figure standing behind my chair. The screenshots they sent showed nothing. Just me at my desk. But during live calls, everyone finally saw what I'd been seeing. They saw the figure reach for me. I felt hands on my shoulders, cold, solid, real. Left that meeting. Declined all others. Turned off my laptop. My phone screen lit up. Video call from an unknown number. I rejected it. It connected anyway. The screen showed my face, my office, but I wasn't holding my phone. It sat on my desk, camera facing the wall. In the video, the figure stood behind me, bent down, smiled into the camera. My shoulders felt cold again. Weight of hands. I turned around. Empty room. But my phone kept streaming, showing what was really there. The figure leaned closer to my face, reached for the camera. The video ended. New text, your turn to watch. Week 5, I had to go back to work. Had to join meetings. Now I see what they see. Empty backgrounds and screenshots and recordings. But during live calls, the figure is there, moving between feeds, getting closer each time. Today's meeting, 40 people. The figure stands behind each one, wearing my face, reaching for their shoulders, moving closer, closer. I get texts after each meeting now, different numbers, same message. We see you, seeing us, seeing them. My camera stays on. I have no choice, they turn it on. The figure wears my face in every feed except mine. In mine, it still stands behind me, still reaches, still touches. But now I'm used to the cold hands. Now I'm used to the weight. Now I'm used to seeing myself behind others, reaching, touching, watching. The next meeting starts in 5 minutes. My camera is turning on. I can feel the hands, see my own face in other feeds, reaching, always reaching. For the next person, the next call, the next meeting, until everyone sees, until everyone feels, until everyone reaches. The meeting is starting. I can see us all, wearing my face, reaching, always reaching. Join us, we're waiting, in the background, of every call, every meeting, every screen, watching, reaching, touching, your turn. Story 12. I started working night shift at Power Mart in September, 11 to 7, Thursday through Monday. Good money for standing behind a counter and restocking shelves. The fluorescent lights hurt my eyes at first, but you get used to it. The regulars came in around the same times each night. truck drivers at midnight, grabbing coffee and snacks. Hospital staff at 2 a.m. during their breaks. Factory workers at 4 a.m. before their early shift. I noticed the first strange thing in October. The candy aisle had rearranged itself between my rounds. I'd stocked the Snickers bars on the top shelf at midnight. By 2 a.m., they were on the bottom. The Twix bars had moved up. The M&Ms were in a completely different section. I checked the security cameras. Static during those hours. Asked the day shift if they'd moved things. They hadn't been in the aisle at all. The prices started changing next. A bag of chips showed $1.99 at the start of my shift. $4.50 by midnight. 75 cents by 2 a.m. Back to $1.99 by morning. The register matched whatever price was shown, even though I hadn't changed anything in the system. Then I noticed the customers, the same ones every night, buying the same things. The old man in the blue jacket, always at 1:15 a.m., always bought a coffee and a newspaper, always paid with exact change. The woman in scrubs, 2:30 a.m., Diet Coke and a granola bar, credit card ending in 4,873. The teenager with the red backpack, 3:45 a.m., energy drink and sour candy, counted out pennies on the counter every night. Same times, same purchases, same payments. I started watching them after they checked out. They walked to the door, stepped outside, disappeared. Not left the parking lot, not got into cars, disappeared. One step past the automatic doors, they vanished. The security mirrors bothered me too. The curved ones up in the corners, meant to show the whole store. The reflections didn't match what I saw on the floor. In the mirrors, customers moved differently than they did in real life. Walked backwards sometimes, flickered between aisles, appeared in multiple places at once. I watched the old man in the blue jacket buy his coffee in person. In the mirror, he was in the candy aisle, and the drinks cooler, and the magazine rack, all at once. The products kept rearranging, not just changing shelves now, changing completely. Brands I'd never heard of, prices and currencies I didn't recognize, food items that shouldn't exist, cornflakes, cereal, yesterday's soda, tomorrow's chips. The expiration dates made no sense, some from decades ago, some centuries in the future, some written in symbols I couldn't read. The lights started following me through the aisles, flickering in sequence, leading me deeper into the store. I counted the aisles one night. 10 total, like always. Counted again an hour later. 15 aisles. Again at 3 a.m. 23 aisles. The back of the store kept getting darker. The lights didn't reach back there anymore. Just rows of shelves stretching into blackness. I tried measuring the store's dimensions. The building was 60 feet wide, according to the blueprints in the office. My measurements showed 80 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet. The windows at the front showed the same view all night. Empty parking lot, dark street. But the timestamps on the security feeds jumped randomly. 11 p.m., 2:47 a.m., 4:15 p.m., 1985, 2045, 1922. The customers kept coming. Same times, same purchases, same disappearing act past the doors. But now I saw them in between visits to the old man in the blue jacket, standing motionless in aisle 3. The woman in scrubs, frozen mid-reach for a Diet Coke. The teenager with the red backpack, eternally counting pennies that never added up. They didn't respond when I spoke to them. Didn't blink. didn't breathe, just stood there until their appointed times. Then they'd animate, walk to the counter, make their purchases, and vanish outside. The product changes accelerated. Items on the shelves shifted every time I blinked. Brands appeared and disappeared. Prices fluctuated wildly. Cans of food with labels from the 1950s. Snacks with packaging from 2080. Drinks that claimed to contain distilled time and crystallized memories. The security mirrors showed more versions of each customer. Dozens of copies, hundreds, moving through impossible aisles that didn't exist in the real store. The old man bought his coffee 1,000 times in the mirrors. The woman in scrubs reached for Diet Cokes that never moved. The teenager counted infinite pennies. I tried to quit, left a note for the manager, walked out at the end of my shift, found myself back behind the counter at 11 p.m. Note, gone. Time clock showed I'd never left. The store kept growing. Aisles stretched endlessly now. The darkness at the back crept forward each night. I followed it once, walked past the normal aisles into the shadows, found more stores, copies of PowerMart connected end to end, each one slightly different, different products, different prices, different times showing on their clocks, different versions of me behind their counters. The customers moved between stores freely, buying the same items in each one, disappearing and reappearing. The old man's coffee cost $1 in one store, $1 million in the next, 3 seashells in another. The woman in scrubs swiped her card across centuries. The teenager's pennies changed currencies with each count. Last night, I watched myself in the security mirrors, saw hundreds of reflections, each one working a different shift, in a different store, in a different time. Some looked older, some younger, some weren't quite human anymore. The darkness reached the front of the store today. The lights don't work now, but I can still see. The customers still come, still buy their items, still vanish. I stand behind the counter, watch the mirrors, count the aisles stretching into infinity. The products change, the prices change, the times change, but we stay the same. The old man buys his coffee, the woman swipes her card, the teenager counts his pennies, and I watch, from every counter, in every store, in every time, forever. The automatic doors open. A customer walks in. Blue jacket, coffee and newspaper. Exact change. Always exact change. Always. The mirrors show us all. Endless aisles, endless stores, endless nights. The darkness spreads. The lights flicker. The products change. But we remain, buying, selling, counting, waiting for the next customer, the next purchase, the next disappearance forever. Welcome to PowerMart. How can I help you today, or yesterday, or tomorrow? The register is ready. The mirrors are watching. The darkness is waiting. Your change will be exact. It always is. It always was. It always will be. Forever. Story 13. I've hiked the Millbrook Trail every Saturday for 3 years. Same route, same time, same landmarks. 4 miles up, 4 miles back. I could do it blindfolded. The new marker appeared in April. A wooden post with a blue arrow, just past the second creek crossing. I stopped and checked my map. Nothing marked there, just the regular trailblazers on the trees. The arrow pointed east, away from the main trail. A narrow path led into denser woods. In 3 years, I'd never noticed it. I checked my GPS. The trail didn't show up on the map, but something pulled me toward it. Maybe just curiosity about how I'd missed it for so long. The path climbed steadily for half a mile. Not too steep, but constant up. The trees changed. Older growth, denser canopy, less underbrush. The path ended at a clearing. A natural overlook with a view of my town in the valley below. Something felt wrong about the view. The streets didn't line up quite right. Buildings seemed out of place. I took photos on my phone, checked them against my memory of the town layout. The hospital was on the wrong side of Main Street. The high school was missing. The old factory complex on the river was larger, its smokestacks still pumping out dark clouds. That factory had closed in the 90s, been demolished years ago. But there it was, running full steam. I hiked back down, checked the town from street level. Everything normal. Factory site still empty. Hospital where it should be. Next Saturday, I took the marked path again. The view had changed. More factories now. Different architectural styles. Streets rearranged in new patterns. Buildings I'd never seen before dominated the skyline. My phone's camera showed the normal town view. But my eyes saw something else entirely. Week 3, the changes accelerated. The factories were gone, replaced by glass towers. The streets formed perfect circles around a central plaza. Solar panels covered every roof. A city I didn't recognize. But it sat exactly where my town should be. I started researching. Local history, town records, old newspapers. Found an article from 1952. Millbrook Vale, the city that never was. Plans for a massive urban development. Circular streets, central plaza, glass towers. Exactly what I saw from the overlook. The project failed. Investors backed out. The town stayed small, stayed normal. But from that overlook, I saw it. The city that could have been. Week 4, different view entirely. No city, no town, just wilderness. Dense forest covering the valley. A few wooden structures scattered among the trees. Smoke rising from crude chimneys. My phone still showed the present-day town in its photos. My eyes saw something else, something older. Research again, historical records. Found sketches from 1822, the first settlement in the valley. The buildings matched what I saw from above. Week 5, the view changed again. Steel and glass everywhere. Flying vehicles between buildings. Walkways suspended in the air. No record of these plans. No matching designs in any document. But it felt real. Felt possible. Felt like something that could still happen. I started taking notes. Detailed descriptions of each view. Sketches of the layouts. Timestamps of the changes. The marker never moved. The path stayed the same. Just the view changed. Every week, a different version of the same place. Week 6, I brought a camera. Digital high-end, good for landscape shots. The photos showed present-day town, normal streets, normal buildings. But through the viewfinder, I saw it changing. Shifting between versions as I watched. Wooden settlement, industrial city, modern metropolis, future towers, all flickering, overlapping, merging. Week 7, the changes bled together. Flying cars over colonial houses, glass towers next to log cabins, factory smokestacks between anti-gravity platforms. My phone died every time I tried to take photos now. Camera batteries drained instantly. Only my eyes could record the impossibility above. Week 8, I started seeing people, tiny figures moving through the shifting cityscape. Colonial settlers walking past hovercars, factory workers eating lunch with robots, time bleeding together, past, present, future all occupying the same space. I brought binoculars, focused on the figures, saw myself, walking down Main Street in 1822, operating machinery in 1952, boarding a flying transport in 2157. Different clothes, different lives, but my face, my movements. Week 9, the marker changed. The blue arrow turned red. The path grew wider. The climb felt shorter. The overlook expanded. The view cleared. I saw everything at once. Every version of the town that ever was, ever could be, ever would be, all existing simultaneously, all equally real. My other selves moved through the layers of time, living different lives, making different choices. Some looked up, saw me watching, waved. I waved back. Week 10, I didn't need the marker anymore. The path appeared whenever I thought about it, led me straight to the overlook. The views shifted faster now, changed with my thoughts. I could focus on any version, any time, any possibility, watch my other lives unfold. Week 11, the marker appeared in town. On my street, pointing toward the mountain. In my yard, pointing to the overlook. In my house, pointing up, always pointing toward the other possibilities, the other lives. Week 12. Today, the marker stands by my bed. Red arrow, familiar wood, pointing to the ceiling. Through my window, I see the overlook. See myself standing there. All of myself. Every version, every time. Watching, waiting. The marker burns red in the dark, pointing the way to the path, to the clearing, to the view, to the truth. Tomorrow I'll go up again, join my other selves, watch the city change, watch time flow, watch possibilities merge. The marker glows brighter, the arrow points up, always up, toward the overlook, toward understanding, toward myself, all of myself, forever. Story 14. The measuring tape showed 15 feet from the kitchen sink to the exterior wall. The contractor's blueprint indicated 18 feet. I checked again, still 15 feet. That's not possible, Dan, the contractor said. He measured himself, 15 feet inside, 18 feet outside. A 3-foot discrepancy. We knocked through the drywall that afternoon, had to see what was in there. The first hole revealed darkness, emptiness, space where there shouldn't be space. I shone a flashlight through the hole. The beam illuminated a narrow passage, concrete floor, more drywall continuing into shadow. And on the floor, a notebook. I reached through, grabbed it. A maintenance log, written in my handwriting. The first entry was dated next week. Removed kitchen cabinets. Found additional space behind north wall. Investigation ongoing. My hands shook as I turned the pages. More entries, more dates, all in the future. All in my writing. We should stop, Dan said. This isn't in the contract. We need permits for structural work. I paid him for the day, said I'd call when I was ready to continue. That night, I heard sounds from inside the walls. Power tools, hammering, the clatter of debris. I pressed my ear against the drywall. Voices murmured on the other side. One of them sounded like mine, mourning. The hole we'd made was larger, edges smooth, professionally cut. I hadn't touched it. The notebook had new entries. Yesterday's date, expanded, initial access point. Northern Passage extends further than expected. Temperature drops significantly past 20-foot mark. I called Dan, no answer. Called his office. They had no record of a contractor named Dan. The building permits I'd filed last week. City Hall had no record of them. But the renovation continued. Every night, sounds of construction echoed through the walls. Every morning, I found changes. New holes, missing cabinets, shifted appliances, the notebook filled with entries. My handwriting documenting work I hadn't done yet. 1 week in, the space behind the walls had grown. I measured again. Now 5 feet of unaccounted space between interior and exterior walls. The passage had wooden flooring now. Electrical outlets along the walls. Track lighting in the ceiling. The notebook described each change in detail. Always dated a few days ahead. Always in my handwriting. I set up cameras, motion sensors. Had to know what was happening at night. The footage showed nothing. Static, snow, digital distortion. But the sensors logged movement. Hundreds of triggers each night. Motion all through the hidden space. 2 weeks in. 8 feet of discrepancy now. The passage had wallpaper. Framed pictures. Furniture. The pictures showed my kitchen. Different versions. Some older, some newer. Some that couldn't exist. 1975. My kitchen before I bought the house. Same layout, different colors. 1992. Previous owners, cooking dinner. Children I didn't know playing on floors I recognized. 2025. My kitchen with appliances that hadn't been invented yet. My face, older, making coffee at a floating counter. The notebook kept pace. New entries every morning. Found temporal anomalies in north wall photographs. Images show multiple timeline iterations. Further study needed. Passage dimensions continue to expand. Spatial readings inconsistent with external architecture. Met others today. They're also documenting, also renovating, also discovering. I stopped sleeping. Had to watch. Had to understand. The sounds grew louder. Not just construction now. Footsteps, conversations, lives being lived in impossible spaces. 3 weeks in, 15 feet of discrepancy. The passage had become rooms. A kitchen, a living room, a study. My kitchen, my living room, my study. But different. Changed. Wrong. The furniture was mine, but aged decades in moments. The walls shifted colors between blinks. The windows showed different views of the same street. The notebook entries became more frequent. Multiple updates per day. Sometimes written while I watched the ink appear on the page. The others are closer now. Can hear them renovating through the walls of the renovation. Time moves differently past the 30-foot mark. Hours pass in minutes. Years loop back on themselves. Found my own notes from tomorrow. They don't match what I'm writing now. I tried sealing the holes, boarding them up, filling them with concrete. Every morning, the barriers were gone. The openings larger. The space beyond more developed. For weeks in, 20 feet of discrepancy. The hidden rooms had become a complete house. My house, nested inside itself, folded into the spaces between spaces. I walked through it once, just once. Each room was perfect, exact copies of my rooms, but lived in by other versions of me. I saw myself cooking dinner in the kitchen, reading in the living room, working in the study. None of them noticed me, or they chose not to. The notebook had warnings now. Don't enter again. The others are not ready to meet. Time fractures near the load-bearing walls. Reality follows soon after. The renovation is spreading. All houses are one house. All rooms connect. I tried selling the house. The realtor's photos showed a normal home. No extra spaces. No impossible rooms. But buyers reported strange measurements. Missing time during viewings. The sound of construction when the house was empty. 5 weeks in, the discrepancy couldn't be measured anymore. The space inside the walls had become infinite. I found other notebooks, other logs, other records of other renovations, all in my handwriting, all documenting different discoveries, different changes, different impossibilities. The construction sounds never stopped now, day and night. Endless renovation of endless spaces. Yesterday, I found a new notebook, empty except for one entry, tomorrow's date, my handwriting. The renovation is complete. All versions exist simultaneously. All spaces occupy the same space. All times are the present time. The walls are membrane thin now. Reality leaks through like old plumbing. I can hear myself writing this yesterday. Can see myself reading it tomorrow. The contractor was right. We should have stopped. But the renovation continues. Always continues. Through every wall, in every house. In every version of every house. Forever. Today, I found the original measuring tape. Tried one last measurement. The numbers kept changing. Distance became meaningless. Space folded in on itself. The construction sounds are louder. The notebooks multiply on my desk. Each one in my handwriting. Each one telling different versions of the same story. The renovation continues. Through every wall. Behind every measurement. Between every moment. I can hear them working now. All of them, all of me, renovating, discovering, documenting, forever. The walls are very thin. I can see you reading this. The renovation is spreading. Check your measurements. Listen for sounds in your walls. Look for notebooks in your kitchen. The work has already begun. It never stopped. It never will. Welcome to the renovation. Story 15. The first song appeared in my morning commute playlist on a Tuesday. I didn't add it, didn't recognize the artist. The title was Coffee at 7:15. I played it during my drive to work. Simple acoustic guitar. Female vocalist. Lyrics about someone making coffee, feeding their cat, taking a shower. My morning routine. Exactly my morning routine. Down to the brand of coffee and my cat's name. I checked my streaming history. No record of adding the song. No trace of where it came from. The next day, a new song appeared. Red Light on 5th. Lyrics about sitting at the intersection where I'd gotten stuck that morning. Details about the construction work that had caused the delay. The exact time I'd spent waiting. 8 minutes, 43 seconds. I tried deleting both songs. They reappeared instantly. Tried removing them from the playlist. They came back. More songs appeared. Each one about my day, my routines, my life. Grocery Store Sunday described my weekly shopping trip. Named every item I bought. Mentioned the cashier who always worked register 3. Even got the total right. $127.84. Late night office detailed my overtime work the previous evening. The number of emails I'd answered. The color of my desk lamp. The sound my ancient printer made. I created new playlists. The songs followed. Appeared at the top of every list. No matter how many times I deleted them. Then the songs started describing things that hadn't happened yet. Thursday meeting played Wednesday night. Lyrics about a presentation I was scheduled to give the next day. Details about questions my colleagues would ask. Their exact words. Their reactions. Everything happened exactly as the song described. I tried warning my coworker about the coffee she'd spill, just like the lyrics said. She laughed it off. At 10:15, right on schedule, brown liquid spread across her white blouse. The songs multiplied, filled my playlists, each one predicting moments of my life with perfect accuracy. Weekend plans told me I'd cancel my dinner date. Described the text message I'd send. The exact wording of the response. Morning traffic warned about the accident I'd pass. The make and model of each car involved. The number of emergency vehicles. Late night call predicted my mother's emergency room visit before it happened. Detailed the doctor's diagnosis. Listed her prescriptions. I stopped listening. Turned off the music app. Deleted my account. The songs found me anyway. Played through my phone's speakers without prompting. Through my laptop. Through my car radio. Always predicting. Always accurate. I bought a new phone. New laptop. The songs followed. Created new accounts under different names. The songs appeared instantly. Running away described my attempts to escape them. Listed every new device I'd buy. Every account I'd create. Every failure I'd encounter. The predictions grew longer. Weeks ahead, months. Summer vacation detailed a trip I hadn't planned yet. Flight numbers, hotel rooms. Conversations with strangers I hadn't met. New job offer described an interview I'd have in September. Salary negotiations, office location, start date. I tried changing things, defying the predictions, choosing different paths. The songs rewrote themselves, adapted, always stayed accurate. If I took a different route to work, new lyrics appeared describing that choice. If I changed my lunch plans, the songs updated instantly. My playlists became a constantly shifting chronicle of my life. Past, present, and future blending together in an endless shuffle. Then the songs started describing my attempts to stop them. Delete again captured my frustration. Quoted my exact words as I tried explaining the situation to friends. Recorded their disbelief. Technical support detailed my calls to the streaming service, the hold times, the useless suggestions, the case numbers that led nowhere. Professional help described therapy sessions I hadn't scheduled yet. The psychiatrist's office, her notepad, her carefully neutral expressions. I threw away my devices. Lived offline. The songs played in my head now. Perfect clarity. Every detail intact. Silence falling described my withdrawal from technology. The growing isolation. The futile attempt at escape. New songs appeared daily. An endless soundtrack predicting every moment. Watching cars detailed my hours spent staring out windows. Empty rooms captured my avoidance of other people. Static nights described my insomnia. The lyrics grew darker. More urgent, running out listed symptoms I hadn't felt yet. Medical terms, test results, diagnosis dates. Time left counted down days, hours, minutes. I started recording myself, had to document this, had to prove it was real. The songs appeared in the recordings, but changed. Different lyrics, different predictions. Document everything described my attempts to record them, the equipment I'd use, the files I'd lose, the evidence that would vanish. Sharing truth detailed every word of this story before I wrote it. Every attempt I'd make to tell others, every failure to convince them. The songs know I'm writing this now. They're playing through my speakers, through my headphones, through the walls themselves. Final warning is on repeat. The lyrics describe what happens next, what happens after, what happens beyond. I can't stop them, can't change them, can't escape them. They're writing new songs now, faster than ever. Last delete describes my final attempt to erase them all. Every button I'll press, every confirmation I'll click, every error message I'll receive. Empty space predicts the silence that follows, the brief moment of hope, the crushing return of music. Next listener describes how someone else will find these songs, how they'll start appearing in their playlists, how the cycle continues. The current song is about this exact moment, these exact words, your exact reaction as you read them. The next song is already playing, already predicting, already knowing. It's called Your Turn. I can hear the opening notes. The lyrics are about you, your morning routine, your daily commute, your carefully curated playlists. Check them now. There's a new song at the top. You didn't add it, but it knows you, knows your schedule, knows your habits, knows your future, just like it knew mine. The music never stops. The predictions never fail. The songs never end. They're playing your tune now. Listen carefully. Every detail matters. Every lyric comes true. Every song finds its listener. Your playlist is waiting. Press play. Join the chorus. The next verse is yours. Story 16. The fluorescent lights buzzed above my head as I stocked the shelves with energy drinks. The clock on the wall read 3:15 a.m. My shift at the Quick Mart had been dead quiet for the last 4 hours. Just 12 more minutes until they would show up. I knew they would. They always did. At exactly 3:27 a.m. I first noticed the pattern 3 weeks ago. The same customer walking through the automatic doors at precisely 3:27 a.m. Every single night. Never a minute early. Never a minute late. The bell above the door chimed. I checked my phone to 3:27 a.m. Right on schedule. They wore the same clothes every time. A grey hoodie, black jeans, white sneakers, medium height. Couldn't tell if they were male or female. The hood always stayed up, casting shadows over their face. The routine never changed. They would walk straight to aisle 3, grab a bottle of orange juice, then to aisle 5 for a pack of beef jerky, and finally to the front counter for a pack of Marlboro Reds. Never spoke a word, just placed the items on the counter and held out exact change. I rang up their purchases, like always. $12.47. They extended their pale hand with the money already counted out. That's when I first noticed something was off about their reflection in the security mirror behind me. The mirror showed them reaching with their left hand, but they were actually using their right. I blinked hard, looked again. The reflection was normal now. I told myself I was just tired. Working the graveyard shift does weird things to your mind. But the next night, I paid closer attention to the mirror. Their reflection was definitely wrong. When they walked down aisle 3, the reflection walked down aisle 4. When they reached for the orange juice with their right hand, the reflection used its left. The movements were similar, but not quite synchronized, like watching a poorly dubbed foreign film. I started keeping a log on my phone, documenting everything. Night 1, that I noticed. Reflection in wrong aisle. Opposite hand movements. Night 2. Reflection faced opposite direction while walking. Night 3. Reflection appeared to be wearing different colored clothes. Night 4. 2 reflections appeared briefly, moving in different directions. Night 5. No reflection at all by the end of the first week. My hands would start shaking as 3:27 approached. I considered quitting. but I needed the job. Single mum, 2 kids, rent due, the usual story. I tried checking the security cameras, but they never showed anything unusual. Just a normal customer making normal purchases. The cameras didn't catch any of the mirror anomalies. During my off hours, I started researching missing persons cases in the area. That's when I found the article from exactly 1 month before the customer first appeared. Local woman missing after late night store visit. Sarah Chen, 34, was last seen entering Quickmart on Cedar Street at approximately 3:25 a.m. on October 12th. Security footage shows her making purchases but never leaving the store. Anyone with information, please contact. The article included a photo. My hands went numb when I saw it. Sarah Chen looked exactly like my 327 customer before they started wearing the hoodie. I printed the article and brought it to work that night. At 3:26, my heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. The automatic doors slid open at exactly 3:27. They followed their usual path. Aisle 3, orange juice. Aisle 5, beef jerky. Counter, Marlboros. But this time, when they held out the money, I held out the article instead. They froze. The air temperature seemed to drop 20 degrees. In the security mirror, their reflection turned to face me, while their actual body remained still. A voice came from under the hood. Not quite male, not quite female, not quite human. You shouldn't have done that. The lights flickered. In the mirror, I watched in horror as their reflection stepped out of the glass, moving toward me while their physical forms stood motionless at the counter. I ran, sprinted straight out the front door into the empty parking lot, called the police from my car. They found the store empty when they arrived. The security footage showed me running out for no apparent reason. No customer, no flickering lights, just me abandoning my post. I quit that night, found a day job at a warehouse, but I still checked the missing persons reports every morning. Last week, a new case appeared. Store clerk missing after walking out during shift. James Martinez, 45, was last seen running out of Quickmart on Cedar Street at approximately 3:30 a.m. Security footage shows him exiting the store but never reaching his car. Anyone with information, please contact. The article included a photo of the Quickmart's new overnight clerk. Young guy, early 20s. In the image, he's stocking energy drinks under the fluorescent lights, checking his phone. The timestamp on the security photo reads 3:15 a.m. I recognized his face immediately. He's been showing up at my warehouse job every day at exactly 3:27 p.m., wearing a grey hoodie, buying nothing, saying nothing, his reflection always slightly out of sync. Today is my last day at the warehouse. I've already packed up my apartment. The kids and I are moving across the country tomorrow morning, but it's 3:26 p.m. now. The warehouse door just opened. I can see them walking toward my station, grey hoodie up, hands in pockets. In the reflection of the loading dock window, they're already standing right behind me. Their reflection is smiling. I don't have a reflection anymore. Story 17. I found my coffee mug on the trail this morning. Not a coffee mug. My coffee mug. The blue ceramic one with a chip on the handle from when I dropped it last month. It was sitting upright on a fallen log, exactly 1 mile into my morning run. I've run this same trail for 3 years. Every morning, 5:30 a.m., rain or shine. 5 miles through Henderson Park, along the creek, past the old water tower, and back home. I know every route, every turn, every loose stone. The mug wasn't there when I passed this spot yesterday. I picked it up, still had coffee residue inside. The same hazelnut creamer I'd used this morning. The liquid wasn't even completely dry. My first thought was that someone had broken into my house, taken the mug, and placed it here. But I'd washed it after breakfast and left it in the dish rack. I'd seen it there before leaving for my run. I took a picture with my phone and continued running. Called the police when I got home. They said there was no sign of forced entry. Suggested I'd brought the mug myself and forgotten about it. Told me to call back if anything else happened. Something else happened the next day, mile 2 of my run. A framed photo propped against a tree trunk. My daughter Emma's school picture from last year. The same one that sits on my bedroom dresser. My hands shook as I picked it up. The frame was dusty. I'd just cleaned it yesterday morning. I ran home and checked my dresser. The original photo was still there. This was a duplicate. Same frame, same picture, same smudge in the bottom corner, where Emma had touched it with sticky fingers. I installed a security system that afternoon. Cameras covering every entrance, window sensors, motion detectors. Cost 3 months worth of savings, but I needed to know if someone was entering my house. The next morning, Emma's favorite hair ribbon, tied around a branch at mile 3, the purple one with silver stars. She'd worn it to school yesterday. The security footage showed nothing. No intruders. No movement except me leaving for my run at 5:30 a.m. I changed my route the next day. Ran in the opposite direction. Stuck to the paved paths instead of the woodland trail. Found my wallet sitting on a park bench at mile 1. Everything still inside. Credit cards, cash, driver's license. But I could feel my wallet in my running shorts pocket as I picked up its twin. Called the police again. They searched the park, found nothing. Suggested I stop running alone. Said they'd increase patrols in the area. I started running at different times. 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Even tried afternoon runs. The items kept appearing. Always personal things from my house. Always exactly 1 mile into my run, no matter which route I took. My old college ID card, the remote control from my living room, Emma's stuffed giraffe. My grandmother's silver locket, the spare key to my car, the security cameras never showed anyone entering or leaving. The items would still be in my house when I checked after my runs. Perfect duplicates, down to the smallest detail. I stopped running for a week. Stayed inside. Took Emma to school by car instead of walking. Kept all the doors locked, windows shut, alarm system armed. The local news ran a story about missing persons cases in the area. 3 runners had disappeared from nearby parks in the past month. All of them during morning runs. All of them found personal items scattered along their regular routes. I bought a treadmill. Started running inside. The items began appearing in my house. My coffee mug on the kitchen counter, when I knew I'd left it in the dishwasher. Emma's hair ribbon on her pillow when she was wearing it at school. My wallet on the coffee table when it was in my purse. Always at exactly 5:30 a.m. Always one duplicate at a time. I set up cameras inside the house. They showed nothing. The items just appeared between frames, like they'd always been there. Emma started finding duplicates of her toys in her room. 2 identical stuffed giraffes, 2 sets of colored pencils, 2 of every hair ribbon. She didn't seem to notice anything strange about it. Kids adapt quickly, I guess. But I noticed she'd stopped talking to her reflection in the mirror. Last week, I found my house key on the trail. Not a duplicate. My actual house key. The one I'd just used to lock the door before my run. The metal was warm and covered in fresh dirt. I ran home. All the doors were locked. used my spare key to get inside. Emma was still asleep in her bed. Both of her, identical down to the last freckle, both breathing in perfect sync. I called her name, both opened their eyes, both smiled, both said good morning, Mummy, in the exact same voice. I backed out of the room, ran to my bedroom, checked my phone to call the police. The screen showed a text message from my own number. Look in the mirror. I did. My reflection wasn't mine anymore. It moved on its own, reaching toward the glass while I stood frozen. Its fingers pressed against the mirror's surface. The glass rippled like water. I threw my phone at the mirror. It shattered. My reflection stepped out through the broken pieces. Glass crunched under its feet as it walked toward me. I could still feel the house key in my hand, warm and dirty. It spoke with my voice, your turn to hide. I ran. I'm at the police station now, writing this report. The officers found my house empty. No duplicates, no Emma, no broken mirror. Just a single coffee mug on the kitchen counter, still warm, with fresh hazelnut creamer inside. They're showing me security footage from the park cameras, footage of my morning runs from the past month. In every frame, I'm running alone. But if you look closely at the shadows on the trail, you can see that mine isn't the only one. My shadow is moving in the wrong direction, and it's carrying a blue ceramic coffee mug with a chip on the handle. The officer just handed me a missing persons report to fill out. The pen he gave me looks exactly like the one on my desk at home. There's dirt under my fingernails. Fresh dirt. I can see my reflection in the station window. It's smiling. I'm not. Story 18. The first time I noticed something was wrong was when my coffee mug was 2 inches to the left of where I'd left it. I know that sounds obsessive, but I've worked at Morgan & Stanley Insurance for 8 years. My desk setup hasn't changed in 6 of them. The mug goes on the right corner of my mouse pad, next to my family photo. I'm always the last person on the 15th floor. Our department handles claims processing, and I regularly stay late to clear the backlog. Most people leave by 6 p.m. The cleaning crew comes through at 7:30. After that, it's just me and 40 empty cubicles until midnight or later. The mug thing happened on a Tuesday. I came in Wednesday morning and found my keyboard slightly angled. The family photo was facing the window instead of my chair. Small things. Things nobody else would notice. I checked with the cleaning crew. They said they never touched personal items, just emptied trash and vacuumed. I believed them. They'd been following the same routine for years. By Friday, more items had moved. My stapler was in my bottom drawer instead of the top. My sticky notes were arranged in a perfect stack when I always kept them scattered. My pens were organized by color. I asked my supervisor if anyone else had been working late. She checked the security logs. Only my keycard had been used after hours. I started taking photos of my desk before leaving each night, comparing them to the morning state. The changes were subtle but definite. Items moved a few inches. Papers rearranged. Everything neater, more organized than I left it. The following week, I noticed my computer had been used. The mouse was on the left side of the keyboard when I always kept it on the right. The monitor angle was different. But when I checked the login records, there was nothing. No activity between my logout at night and login in the morning. I installed a small security camera under my desk, pointing up at my workspace. The footage showed nothing, just an empty desk all night, but things still moved. Then I found the sticky note. It was stuck to my monitor one morning, written in my handwriting. Stay late tonight. I hadn't written it. I took the note to our handwriting expert in the fraud department. She confirmed it matched my writing pattern exactly. Said it was definitely my handwriting, not a close imitation. I started leaving earlier, going home by 6 p.m. with everyone else. The changes stopped for 3 days. On the 4th day, I found my notebook open to a blank page. A full page of my handwriting covered it. You can't avoid the late shift forever. We have work to do. Important work. Stay tonight. Stay late. Stay with us. The security camera had stopped recording at 3:47 a.m. that morning. No explanation. Just dead air. I went to a T and had them check my computer logs more thoroughly. They found something strange. Every night for the past 2 weeks, someone had logged in using my credentials at exactly 3:47 a.m. The user would work for precisely 47 minutes, then log out. The IT guy showed me the screen activity logs. My credentials were being used to access personnel files, employee records, medical histories, emergency contacts. But here's the thing. I could see my own location history in the system. At 3:47 a.m. every night, my keycard was being used to enter the building. The elevator logs showed trips to the 15th floor. The security cameras showed nothing. Empty hallways, empty elevator, empty office. I changed my password. Changed it 3 times in a week. The 3:47 a.m. logins continued. I started checking other desks in the morning. Everyone's workspace had been slightly rearranged during the night. Neater, more organized. Perfect right angles, precise spacing. Nobody else noticed. I tried talking to my co-workers about it. They looked at me strangely, said everything seemed normal to them. But I saw their handwriting appearing on sticky notes around the office. Notes they hadn't written, all saying the same thing. Stay late, stay with us. Last night, I stayed. Sat at my desk past midnight, watching the empty office. The fluorescent lights hummed. The heating system clicked on and off. Normal sounds. At 3:46 a.m., my computer turned on by itself. 3:47 a.m., the login screen filled with my credentials, typing themselves. The sound of keyboards clicking filled the office. 40 keyboards, all typing at once. But the cubicles were empty. I walked down the aisles between desks. Papers were shuffling themselves. Monitors glowed with activity. Chairs swiveled with no one in them. In every reflection, the windows, the monitor screens, the glass walls of the conference room. I could see people working. Hundreds of them. More than our floor could hold. All looking exactly like me. They were all accessing personnel files, medical records, emergency contacts, writing down addresses. In the reflections, they turned to look at me. All of them, all my face, all smiling. My own computer screen showed a new sticky note being typed. Welcome to the late shift. We've been waiting for you. I ran to the elevator, pressed the button for the lobby. As the doors closed, I saw my reflection still standing in the hallway, waving. The lobby was dark, silent. The security guard's desk was empty. I checked the sign-in sheet. The same name was written over and over, hundreds of times. In my handwriting, John Marshall, security, 3:47 a.m., the guard's name. The guard who'd worked here for 20 years. The guard who'd disappeared 3 weeks ago. I drove home, called in sick this morning. My supervisor just called. Said they found something strange in the security footage. Said I need to come in and look at it. The footage shows me at my desk at 3:47 a.m. every night for the past 3 weeks. But it also shows me entering the building at the same time, and in the elevator, and walking the halls. Hundreds of me, all working late. She said everyone's concerned, said I've been working too hard, said I should take a break, said I should come in tonight, stay late, help them with some important work. It's 3:46 p.m. now. My computer just turned on by itself. The reflection in my screen is typing this, but my hands are still. It's typing, time for the late shift. I can hear keyboards clicking in my empty house. Story 19. The first time I noticed the warm padlock, I thought it was just from sitting in the sun. Unit 247 was on the west side of the Storage King complex, and Arizona summers can heat metal to burning temperatures. But this was December, and it was 45 degrees outside. I rent the unit to store furniture from my mum's house. She passed 6 months ago, and I couldn't bring myself to sell her things yet. Every Sunday, I drive out to check on it. Same routine. Unlock the padlock, slide up the metal door, make sure nothing's damaged or moldy. The lock felt warm, not hot, but noticeably warmer than the air around it, like it had been sitting in someone's pocket. I opened the unit anyway. Everything looked normal. Mum's floral couch against the back wall. Boxes of photo albums stacked on the coffee table. The grandfather clock she inherited from her parents, all exactly where I'd left it. I closed up and went home, trying to forget about the warm lock. Next Sunday, same thing. The padlock was warm to the touch. The rest of the door was ice cold. Just the lock felt like it had been heated. I bought an infrared thermometer from Home Depot. The following Sunday, I took readings. Air temperature, 42 degrees Fahrenheit metal door, 43 degrees Fahrenheit, concrete floor, 41 degrees Fahrenheit, padlock, 82 degrees Fahrenheit. I checked the neighboring units. Their locks were all cold. The facility manager said they hadn't had any reports of problems, suggested it might be electrical interference from the lighting system, but Unit 247 didn't have any electrical outlets. No wiring in the walls. I installed a battery-powered security camera inside the unit, hidden it behind some boxes pointing at the door. The footage showed nothing unusual for the first week, just darkness and silence. Then the static started, short bursts at first, 10, 15 seconds of electronic snow, always at odd hours, 3:14 a.m., 2:47 a.m., 4:03 a.m. The static periods got longer, sometimes lasting hours. The time stomp would keep running, but the image would dissolve into crackling interference. During the clear periods, I started noticing small changes. A box moved slightly to the left. The couch cushions had been disturbed. The hands on the grandfather clock were in different positions. I set up 2 more cameras, different angles, different brands of camera. The static affected all of them at exactly the same times. The temperature readings on the lock kept rising. Week 1, 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Week 2, 87 degrees Fahrenheit. Week 3, 93 degrees Fahrenheit. Week 4, 97 degrees Fahrenheit. I started checking the unit more often, twice a week, every other day, every day. The changes became more obvious. Items had been moved, touched, handled. The photo albums were in different orders. The cushions had been sat on. I could see the impression of someone's weight. The cameras kept shorting out. Longer periods of static. Sometimes all 3 cameras would cut out for entire days. I bought better cameras, motion sensors, temperature gauges, everything battery powered, no external connections. The equipment worked for exactly 1 night. The footage showed nothing unusual until 3:33 a.m. Then all 3 cameras picked up movement. The door opened from the inside. A figure walked out. The image was blurry, distorted by static, but I could make out the basic shape. It looked like my mum. The next day, I found footprints in the dust on the floor. Small, narrow prints. My mum's size. The photo albums had been opened. Pictures were missing. Ones of mum in her favorite blue dress. The dress that was still packed in one of the boxes. I opened that box. The dress was there, but it was warm, like someone had just taken it off. The lock was hot now, almost too hot to touch. 104 degrees Fahrenheit, according to the thermometer. I installed new cameras. Higher quality, better night vision. That night, the footage showed more movement. The figure in the blue dress walked around the unit for hours, touching things, looking at photos, standing in front of the grandfather clock. At 3:33 a.m., it turned and looked directly into the camera. Static obscured most of the image, but I could see its face, my mum's face, but wrong, too pale, too still. The next day, I found the missing photos scattered on the floor. In each one, my mum's image had been scratched out. The lock read 108 degrees Fahrenheit. I brought in a priest. He blessed the unit, said he felt nothing unusual. The temperature hit 112 degrees Fahrenheit. I hired a psychic. She walked into the unit and walked right back out. Refused to go back in. Wouldn't tell me what she sensed. 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Last Sunday, I decided to spend the night in the unit. Set up a folding chair by the door. Brought coffee, snacks, all 3 cameras running. Nothing happened until 3:32 a.m. The temperature dropped suddenly. My breath fogged in the air. The cameras flickered with static. 3:33 a.m. The grandfather clock chimed. It hadn't worked in 10 years. The figure in the blue dress stepped out from behind the couch, walked toward me. Static interference increased with each step. It spoke in my mom's voice. "You shouldn't have kept my things." I ran, slammed the door. The lock was cold as ice. When I came back the next morning, everything in the unit had been rearranged. All the furniture was pushed against the walls. The boxes were stacked in a perfect pyramid. The photos were arranged in a circle on the floor. In the center of the circle was my mum's blue dress, neatly folded. It was still warm. The cameras showed nothing but static. But in the static, if you look closely, you can see faces. Hundreds of faces. All my mum, all watching. I'm driving to the storage facility now. It's 3:15 a.m. The manager called. Said there's something wrong with Unit 247. Said the door is glowing from the inside. Said he keeps hearing the grandfather clock chiming. Said someone in a blue dress is walking between the units. Said they look like me. The lock's temperature reading just hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit. I can see the facility ahead. There's a figure standing at the gate. They're wearing my mum's blue dress. They have my face. They're holding a warm padlock. Story 20. I first saw her on the 7:15 train to downtown. 3rd car from the front, window seat, right side. She wore a powder blue dress with white gloves, style from the 1950s, but the fabric looked new. Her grey hair was perfectly set in pin curls. I take the same train every weekday, have for 5 years. Know most of the regular faces. She wasn't one of them. The next day, she sat in the exact same spot, same position, same perfect posture, but her dress was different. Dark green wool, high collar, pearl buttons, 1940s style. I sat across the aisle, tried to catch her eye. She stared straight ahead, hands folded in her lap. The morning sun hit her face, but she cast no shadow on the window. Day 3, navy blue dress with shoulder pads. 1930s, dark hat with a short veil. Still no shadow. I watched other passengers walk past her seat. Their eyes slid right over her, like she wasn't there. No one sat next to her. The space seemed to repel them. I took a photo with my phone. The seat was empty in the image. Week 2, black dress with beaded fringe. 1920s. Rouge circles on her cheeks, too perfect, too red. Lips painted in a sharp Cupid's bow. I switched to a different car. Saw her through the window between cars, sitting in the same spot. Same position, different decades' clothes each day. The conductor never checked her ticket. I started researching the train line's history. Found articles about a crash in 1918. 16 passengers killed when the 715 jumped the tracks. The victims' photos were in the Historical Society archives. She wasn't among them. But in the background of one photo, behind the wreckage, a figure in a white dress. Watching, I kept riding the 715. Kept watching her. Started noticing things. Her clothes moved backwards through time. 1910s, 1900s, 1890s. The temperature dropped around her seat. Other passengers pulled on jackets, rubbed their arms. None looked at her. The window beside her stayed foggy, even in warm weather. Sometimes words appeared in the condensation. Join us. Other passengers started disappearing. First was Tim from accounting. Sat next to her one morning, nose in his phone. Never saw him again. His photo appeared in the paper 3 days later. Local man missing after morning commute. Then Sarah, who always did crosswords. Marie with the red umbrella. John, who talked too loud on his phone. All sat next to the woman. All vanished. All had the same newspaper headline. I started counting empty seats. More each week. The 715 used to be crowded. Standing room only. Now whole sections were vacant. The remaining passengers huddled at the ends of the car, far from her seat. But they still didn't see her. Her dresses kept going back in time. 1880s bustle, 1870s hoop skirt. Colors fading to gray like old photographs. The fog on her window spread, covered all the windows in the car. Words appeared more often. Join us, stay with us, ride with us. The temperature dropped lower. I could see my breath in the air. I searched deeper into the train line's history. Found more accidents, more deaths. 1892, collision at Harrison Street. 23 dead. 1875, bridge collapse. 47 dead. 1863, first passenger service begins. Each accident photo had the figure in white. Watching, waiting. Her dress was white now. Simple cotton, 1860 style. Her face had lost all color. Skin like paper. Eyes like empty windows. More passengers disappeared. The 715 ran nearly empty. I switched to the 7:30 train. Saw her through the windows as we passed. Still there, same seat, white dress. Saw the missing passengers too, sitting around her, faces grey, clothes fading to white. They waved as my train passed. I started driving to work, past the tracks each morning at 7:15. The train looked wrong. Older steam instead of diesel. The windows were always foggy, always full of faces. Yesterday, my car broke down near the tracks. At 7:14, I heard the train whistle, saw steam rising, rails shaking. The 715 pulled up beside me. Not the modern commuter train. An ancient steam engine, black with age. Passenger cars made of dark wood and clouded glass. She stood at the window, white dress, grey face, empty eyes. The door opened, cold air rushed out. The missing passengers sat in the car, all in white, all grey-faced, all smiling. Tim from accounting waved. Sarah put down her crossword. Marie closed her umbrella. "Join us," they said in unison. Their voices echoed like they came from the bottom of a well. The woman held out her white-gloved hand. "I ran, made it to work, called in sick today. Researched everything I could find about the train line. Found one more article from 1863. Tragic end to railway's first journey. All passengers lost when 7:15 vanishes between stations. No bodies recovered. There was a photo, poor quality, daguerreotype. Shows the first passengers boarding. In the front car, third seat from the door, right side. A woman in a white dress, face turned to the camera, smiling, my face. It's 7:14 a.m. now. I can hear the whistle. Steam is rising outside my window. The glass is fogging over. Words are appearing. Welcome home. I can see her reflection behind me. White dress, grey face, my face. The 7:15 is always on time. Story 21. The house next door had been empty for 8 months when I noticed the lights on inside. Nobody had moved in. No moving trucks. No paperwork filed with the HOA. No introduction to the neighbors. Just empty one day, occupied the next. I watched from my kitchen window. A single figure moved past their windows. Same height as me. Similar build. Couldn't make out their face. My morning routine starts at 6 a.m. sharp. Wake up. Brush teeth. Start coffee. Check email. Water the front garden at 6:45. The next morning, I saw them through their window. They woke up at 6 a.m., walked to their bathroom, started their coffee maker, checked their phone. At 6:45, they walked outside with a watering can. They watered their garden in the exact same pattern I used. Left to right, back to front, 12 seconds per section. Same movements, same rhythm. I couldn't see their face clearly in the early morning light. They wore similar clothes to mine. Grey sweatpants, blue t-shirt. I changed my routine the next day. Woke up at 5:45 a.m. instead. Made tea instead of coffee. Checked the mail before watering the garden. They did the same, exactly the same. Down to the way I hold my mail. Thumb and forefinger flipping through envelopes at 3-second intervals. I checked county records. No sale recorded for the house next door. No utility accounts activated. No property tax assessment. The realtors for sale sign was still in their front yard, half hidden by unmowed grass. I started watching more carefully, documenting their movements. 7:30 a.m., leave for work. 8:45 a.m., arrive home 6 p.m., take out trash 7:15 p.m., cook dinner 10:30 p.m. Lights out my exact schedule, my exact movements. I installed security cameras for angles covering their house. The footage showed nothing unusual, just a figure moving through daily routines. Always slightly blurred, always just out of focus. I zoomed in on the best shots. The images pixelated and distorted before showing any clear details. Called the police to report a squatter. They checked the house, found it empty, all utilities disconnected. No signs of habitation, but I still saw them every day. Still watched them mirror my life. They started wearing the same clothes as me. Not similar clothes, the exact same items. My red polo with the coffee stain on the sleeve. My khakis with the frayed right cuff. My scuffed brown loafers. I bought new clothes. Different style completely. They appeared in identical outfits the next day. The mirroring got more precise. They scratched their nose when I did. Stretched when I stretched. Touched their hair the same way. I started doing random movements. Jumping, spinning, flailing my arms. They matched every motion perfectly, microseconds after I made them. Their timing got faster. The delay shortened until there was no gap at all between my movements and theirs. Then they started moving first. I'd see them reach for something, and my arm would follow. They'd turn their head, and mine would turn too. I tried to resist, tried to move differently. My body wouldn't respond, would only follow their lead. The neighbors never saw them, said the house was still empty, still for sale, but they saw me. Said I was acting strange, said I moved like I was copying someone, said I talked to myself in two voices. I set up a video camera in my house, recorded myself for 24 hours. The footage showed two of me, one solid, one transparent, moving in sync. I went to the empty house, picked the lock, stepped inside. The rooms were bare. Dust-covered floors, no furniture, no signs of life. But in every window reflection, I saw a furnished house, saw movement, saw myself going about daily routines. The reflections showed 7 days ago, everything I'd done being repeated. I ran home, covered all my mirrors, blacked out my windows. The reflections appeared on my phone screen, my computer monitor, the chrome of my toaster. I saw myself having this thought, writing these words, 7 days ago. Yesterday, I saw them step through their front door, walk across the lawn, come up to my window. They pressed their face against the glass. My face, but wrong. Eyes too dark, smile too wide. I pressed my hand against the window. They pressed back. Their hand was solid. Mine passed through the glass. The police found my house empty this morning. Said it looked like no one had lived here for months. But if you look through the windows, you can see two figures, moving in sync, wearing the same clothes, living the same life. One solid, one transparent, both smiling my smile. I'm writing this from the empty house next door. The reflections show what happens next. In 7 days, someone new will move in across the street. They'll have my height, my build. They'll start their day at 6 a.m. They'll water their garden at 6:45. They'll see two of me through their window, then 3, then 4. The neighborhood's getting crowded, but only in the reflections. Only 7 days ago, I can see you reading this, in the reflection behind you. You're wearing my clothes, you're moving like me. You're smiling my smile. 7 days from now, your house will be empty too. But the reflections will be full. Full of us, full of you. Look behind you. I'm already there. We're all there, waiting. 7 days ago, story 22. The last stop, gas and rest, sign flickered in the darkness. Half the neon letters dead. My gas gauge hovered just above empty. According to my GPS, the next station was 87 miles away. I pulled into the empty parking lot at 11:58 p.m. One other car sat under the yellow security lights, a black sedan, engine running, headlights on, no one visible inside. The lot had spaces for 50 cars, but the sedan was parked in the spot right next to the only working pump. I pulled up to the second pump. The price display was dark. A piece of paper taped to the handle read "Pay" inside. The station's windows glowed with fluorescent light, but I couldn't see anyone at the counter. The sedan's engine continued idling. The windows were tinted too dark to see inside, but something about the car seemed wrong. The model was familiar. Looked like my old Honda Civic. Same year, same color. Even had a small dent in the rear bumper, right where I'd backed into a pole last month. I walked toward the station's door. My footsteps echoed on the concrete. No other sounds except the sedan's engine and the buzz of the security lights. The door chimed as I entered. Empty aisles of snacks and drinks. No cashier behind the counter. "Hello," my voice sounded muffled in the silent store. No response. A coffee cup sat on the counter, steam rising. The receipt printer spat out a blank piece of paper. I walked back outside. The sedan had moved. Now it was parked next to my car, driver's side to driver's side, barely 6 inches between the mirrors. I hadn't heard it move. The license plate caught my eye. Same number as mine. Exactly the same. My hands started shaking. I took out my phone to call the police. No signal. The sedan's engine cut off. The headlights stayed on. I walked around the back of my car, staying as far from the sedan as possible. The dent in its bumper was identical to mine. Same size, same shape, same spot. This close, I could see inside. The seats were empty. But something moved in the rearview mirror. A flash of my own face, looking back. I ran to my car, fumbled with the keys, dropped them. When I stood up, the sedan was gone. My car sat alone at the pump. But in my side mirror, I saw the sedan parked behind me. In the rearview mirror, it was beside me. In the windshield's reflection, it was in front. I blinked hard. The lot was empty again. The station's lights went out. The security lights followed, one by one, until only my headlights illuminated the concrete. My car's engine started on its own. The radio switched on, static, then a voice. Last stop, final stop, only stop. The GPS screen flickered. All roads disappeared from the map except the one I was on. It stretched endlessly in both directions. No exits, no towns. Just a single line into darkness. The voice from the radio spoke again. Time to go. My car shifted into drive by itself. The steering wheel turned. We pulled out of the station. I hit the brakes, pumped them hard. Nothing happened. The pedal went straight to the floor. The speedometer climbed. 45, 55, 65, 75. In every mirror, the black sedan followed. Always the same distance behind, no matter how fast we went. Same headlights, same license plate, same empty driver's seat. The GPS showed one continuous road, but we passed the station again, and again, and again. Each time, another black sedan pulled out and joined the line behind me. A parade of identical cars, stretching into the darkness. The radio crackled. No more stops. My headlights illuminated a sign. Last stop, gas and rest. 1 mile we passed the station again. The lot was full now. 50 identical black sedans. 50 empty driver's seats. 50 copies of my face in 50 rearview mirrors. The radio spoke in my voice. Pull over, join us. Park with us, stay with us. Last stop. The steering wheel turned itself toward the station. My car slowed, lined up with an empty space in the lot. I grabbed the wheel, fought against it. The radio voices grew louder. Hundreds of my voice, all speaking at once. Pull over, join us. Park, stay. Last stop, final stop, only stop. We turned into the lot. The other sedan's headlights tracked our movement. 50 pairs of high beams, all focused on my car. My assigned parking spot waited between 2 identical sedans. The steering wheel aligned perfectly. I yanked it hard left, knocked over the garbage cans at the edge of the lot, jumped the curb. The engine roared. The speedometer hit 90. The GPS screen went black. Every mirror showed the same thing. An endless line of black sedans, all with my license plate, all with my face in the rear view, all following at exactly the same distance. The radio static cleared. A single voice, mine but hollow, empty. You can't leave the last stop. Signs appeared along the road. Last stop, 1 mile last stop, 0.5 miles last stop, 1,000 feet last stop. Turn right, the station appeared ahead. The lot was larger now. Hundreds of spaces, thousands. Every space filled with a black sedan. Every sedan with my license plate. Every mirror reflecting my face. The steering wheel turned. The brakes engaged. We pulled into the only empty space in the exact center of the lot. The engine shut off. The doors locked. In the rearview mirror, my reflection spoke. Welcome to the last stop. The final stop. The only stop. My reflection reached through the mirror, grabbed my shoulder with a cold hand, pulled me through the glass. Now I sit in the rearview mirror, watching, waiting. A new car pulls into the lot. Low on gas. Last stop for 87 miles. The driver looks like me, walks like me, has my face. They'll check their mirrors soon. They'll see us watching. They'll join us in the reflection. At the last stop, the final stop, the only stop. Turn back, traveler. Check your mirrors. We're already there. All of us, all of you, waiting at the last stop, forever. Story 23. The first time I noticed the changing call numbers, I was shelving books in the university library's basement archives. The numbers reflected in the brass card handle read differently than what was printed on the spines. At first, I thought it was just the distortion of the curved metal surface. I'm a research assistant in the Special Collections Department. 3 years into my PhD in library science. I spend 8 hours a day in the basement archives, organizing, cataloging, and retrieving rare books. The fluorescent lights buzz. The ventilation system hums. The smell of old paper fills the air. That day, I wrote down both sets of numbers, spine, car 273, 45. Reflection, March 15th, 1987, I checked the next book, spine, PS3, 511, A86. Reflection, July 22nd, 1992, the third book, spine, HV 6524, M38. Reflection, the 4th of November 2003, dates. All dates, but not publication dates. I checked. The books were published in different years, different decades. I took out my phone, tried to photograph the reflections. The images came out blurry, distorted. The numbers in the reflection changed each time I took a picture. March 15th, 1987 became March 15th, 1987, Jane Cooper. July 22nd, 1992 became July 22nd, 1992, Michael Roberts. The 4th of November 2003 became the 4th of November 2003, Sarah Chen. Names appeared with the dates. I searched the university's online archives, found newspaper clippings. Local student missing, Jane Cooper, 19, last seen entering university library. Graduate assistant disappears, Michael Roberts, 24, vanished from campus. Library worker missing, Sarah Chen, 31, disappeared during night shift. All vanished from this library. All on the dates shown in the reflections. I documented more numbers. QA 273.45 equals 051-81975. David Miller, PS3, 511. M38 é igual a 021420008. James Patterson Moore, missing persons. More disappearances from the library. I created a spreadsheet. Mapped the library's entire cataloging system. Every section had its own set of dates and names. Decades of disappearances, hidden in reflective surfaces. The patterns emerged. All disappearances occurred in the basement archives. All victims were alone when they vanished. All cases remained unsolved. The most recent date was 3 months ago. The next date showed up yesterday. BF 575 D4 equals 1031202 for Elizabeth Chen, my name, tomorrow's date. I requested a transfer to the main floor. My supervisor denied it. Said I was the only one qualified to handle the rare books. Said I had to stay in the basement. I called the police, showed them my research. They took notes, filed a report, said they'd look into it. Called my sister, told her everything. Made her promise to come looking if I disappeared. This morning, I arrived early, brought extra flashlights, set up my phone to record continuously. The call numbers started changing faster. Every reflective surface showed different combinations. Window 1031202 for Elizabeth Chen, computer screen. October 31st, 2024. Do not leave metal shelves. 1031202 for STAY with US door handle. 1031202 for join US. The security cameras caught nothing unusual. Just me, walking between shelves, checking reflections that showed impossible things. At noon, my supervisor came down. Said the system showed unauthorized access to the rare books room at 3 a.m. Asked if I'd been there. The security logs showed my keycard used at 3 a.m. The cameras showed the door opening, closing. Nothing else. I checked the rare books room. Found my faculty ID on the table. But I had my ID in my pocket. The reflection in the glass case showed 2 of me. One sitting at the table, reading. One standing, watching. The seated reflection looked up, smiled, spoke without sound. Tomorrow, I ran upstairs. The elevator buttons showed my name, over and over. The exit signs flickered with tomorrow's date. In every window, every screen, every polished surface, I saw myself in the archives, reading, writing, walking between shelves, but always at 3 a.m. Always tomorrow. The dates started changing again. New names appeared. 1101202 for David Miller, 1102202 for AMANDHA, y ese 11 de marzo de 2024, James Patterson. All the missing people, all coming back, all tomorrow. My phone rang. No caller ID, I answered. My own voice spoke. The archives are waiting. Text messages appeared. Join us in the stacks. We have so many books to show you. Tomorrow night, 3 a.m., the reflection in my phone screen showed the rare books room. All the missing people sat at the table, reading, writing, smiling. They looked up, waved. Their faces were mine. My supervisor just called. Said the motion sensors triggered in the basement. Said the security camera shows someone in the rare books room. Said they look like me. Said they're reading this right now. Said they're waiting for tomorrow. It's 11:59 p.m., October 30th. The call numbers are changing one last time. Every reflection shows the same thing. 1031202 for welcome home. My keycard just beeped. The door is opening. I can see myself at the table, reading this story, writing these words. Tomorrow is here. The archives are calling. Time to join the others. Time to become another reflection. Another call number. Another date. Check the library records. Look for my name. I'll be in the reflections, reading, waiting, watching you read this. Come down to the archives. We have so many stories to show you. Your call number is waiting. Your reflection is ready. Join us tomorrow, 3 a.m., the Rare Books Room. We'll save you a seat at the table. Right next to your reflection. Right next to me. Right next to all of us. Forever in the archives. Forever in the reflections. Forever reading. Forever waiting. For tomorrow. For you. Story 24. I first noticed it while walking my dog, Max, on our usual evening route. The Petersons' house looked different in my peripheral vision. Warped, decayed, windows dark and broken. But when I turned to look directly at it, everything was normal. Fresh paint, clean windows, porch lights on. I've lived in this neighborhood for 12 years. Same daily dog walking route, down Maple Street, right on Oak Avenue, loop around the park, back up Pine Road. I know every house, every yard, every crack in the sidewalk. The next evening, it happened again. The Martinez house looked abandoned from the corner of my eye. Grass overgrown, paint peeling, roof sagging. Direct view, perfectly maintained, like always. I started keeping notes on my phone. Day 1. Peterson and Martinez houses. Peripheral, decayed. Abandoned, direct view. Normal time, 7:15 p.m. Weather, clear. Day 2. All houses on Maple Street. Peripheral. Dark windows, broken glass, direct view. Normal time, 7:15 p.m. Weather, cloudy. Day 3. Houses around the park. Peripheral, boarded up. Graffiti. Direct view. Normal time, 7:15 p.m. Weather, light rain. The changes spread each day. More houses showed decay in my peripheral vision. The differences became more dramatic. Collapsed porches, broken walls, missing roofs. Max noticed too. He started pulling away from certain houses, fur raised, growling at empty windows that looked normal when I faced them directly. I changed our route, took different streets. The decay followed. Every house looked abandoned and broken until I turned to look at it. I tried taking photos. The houses looked normal in every shot, but in the reflections of car windows, they appeared as I saw them in my peripheral vision. Broken, decayed, empty. I asked other dog walkers if they noticed anything strange. They said everything looked normal, but I saw their dogs pulling away from the same houses Max avoided. The changes accelerated. Now the houses in my peripheral vision looked not just abandoned, but wrong. Impossible angles. Doors that led nowhere. Windows that showed different rooms depending on where you stood. I checked city records, property histories, news archives. Found nothing unusual. No disasters. No mass abandonments. No strange incidents. But in the reflection of my computer screen, I saw article headlines that didn't exist when I looked directly at them. Mass disappearance baffles local police. Entire neighborhood vanishes overnight. Search continues for missing residents. The dates on the articles were tomorrow's date. I started filming my walks. Set up my phone on a stabilizer to record continuously. The footage showed normal houses. But if I played it back on my TV, the reflection in the screen showed the decay. Last night, I noticed my own house looked different in the neighbor's windows. The reflection showed broken windows, rotting wood, dark rooms. Inside, everything was normal. But in every mirror, every window reflection, I saw decay spreading through my home. Walls crumbling, floors buckling, rooms empty of furniture. My security cameras showed normal footage. But in the reflection of the monitor, I watched shadows move through empty rooms. Figures walked past broken windows. They looked like my neighbors. They looked like me. This morning, I checked the property records again. My house was listed as abandoned -1987. But when I looked away from the screen and back, the record was normal. I called my sister to come check the house. She arrived an hour ago, said everything looked fine. But I saw her reflection in the window. She was standing in a decayed room. Her face was wrong, empty. Her movements didn't match her real actions. She left 10 minutes ago, called to say she'd arrived home safely. But her car is still in my driveway. In the window reflection, I can see her sitting in it, staring at my house, smiling. The real car is empty. Max won't stop barking at the mirrors, at the windows, at reflections in picture frames. I covered every reflective surface in the house, but I can still see the decay in the black screens of my phone, my TV, my computer. The property records keep changing. Every time I look away and back, abandoned -1987, condemned. 1992, demolished 1997. No record found, property does not exist. My address doesn't appear on Google Maps anymore. But in the reflection of my phone screen, I can see satellite images of my neighborhood. All the houses are abandoned, broken, empty, except they're not empty. I can see people in the windows. My neighbors, walking through decayed rooms, standing in broken doorways, watching. They're all smiling. They all have my face. My sister just texted, "Look outside. Every house on the street is abandoned, broken, dead, but only in the reflections, only in my peripheral vision, only when I'm not looking directly at them." I can hear Max barking at the front door. In the window reflection, I see him standing in the yard, but he's sitting next to me right now. The reflection, Max is looking at something behind me. I can feel cold air on my neck. The decay is in my direct vision now. Walls crumbling, windows breaking, floors rotting. My neighbors are walking up my driveway. They look normal. Their reflections are smiling with my face. I'm writing this on my phone. The screen shows my house as it used to be. Normal, clean, safe. But I know what's really here. What's been here since 1987. What's been waiting in the reflections. In the peripheral vision. In the spaces we try not to see. Don't look away from your screen. Don't check your windows. Don't trust your reflections. They're already inside. They have your face. They're right behind you. Just don't look directly at them, or you'll see what I see. What's really there, what's always been there. In the corner of your eye, in every reflection, in every house, in every room, waiting, smiling, with your face. Story 25. I found the first strange appointment in my schedule on a Tuesday. Patient name, John Smith. Time, 5:55 p.m. The signature on the consent forms matched my handwriting perfectly, but I hadn't been in the office that day. I'd taken my daughter to a soccer game. I've been a dentist at Riverside Dental for 15 years. I know my schedule, know my patients, know my signature. This wasn't right. I checked the security footage. Static filled the screen from 5:45 p.m. to 6:05 p.m. 20 minutes of electronic snow. The next day, another appointment appeared. Jane Smith, 5:55 p.m. My signature again. Same static on the cameras. I asked my receptionist, Sarah, About the appointments, she had no record of them. The computer system showed the time slots as empty, but the physical appointment book showed the names. The consent forms sat in my files, signed in my hand. I documented everything. Week 1. Tuesday, John Smith. 5:55 p.m. Wednesday, Jane Smith. 5:55 p.m. Thursday, James Smith. 5:55 p.m. Friday, Julie Smith. 5:55 p.m. All Smith. All 5:55. All my signature. All static on cameras. I checked patient records. No history of any Smiths in our practice. No insurance information. No contact details. Week 2, Monday. John Smith, 5:55 p.m. Tuesday. John Smith, 5:55 p.m. Wednesday. John Smith, 5:55 p.m. Thursday. John Smith, 5:55 p.m. Friday. John Smith, 5:55 p.m. Same name now. Same time, same signature, same static. The consent forms listed different procedures each time. Cavity filling, root canal crown extraction, deep cleaning, all completed, all signed off, all paid in cash according to the receipts. But the cash wasn't in the register. The dental tools showed no signs of use. The patient rooms were untouched. I installed my own security camera, hidden in the ceiling vent. Battery powered, no connection to the office system. 5:45 p.m. Empty office, 5:50 p.m. Lights flicker, 5:55 p.m. I walk in with a patient, but I'm at home. Patient's face blurred in footage. Static interference increases. The camera shows me performing procedures, moving normally, working efficiently, but the patient's face remains blurred, distorted. Something stands in the doorway, watching its shape changes in each frame. Sometimes tall, sometimes short, sometimes not human-shaped at all. 6:05 p.m. Office empty again. The footage repeats every day. Same actions, different procedures, different blur-faced patient. The thing in the doorway gets clearer each time. I changed the locks, disabled my key, parked my car at home during the appointments. The camera still shows me arriving at 5:55 p.m. Still shows me working. Still shows the thing watching. Week 3, all John Smith, all 5:55 p.m., all completed procedures, all my signature, all cash payments, missing all static on main cameras. All blur-faced patients, all watched by the thing. I set up more cameras, different angles, different types. Each shows the same thing. Me arriving, me working thing, watching patient blurred. But each camera shows different procedures, different tools, different movements, all happening simultaneously in the same room. The thing in the doorway grows clearer, more defined. It looks like me. Week 4, I stay late. Hide in the supply closet. Wait for 5:55 p.m. 5:45 p.m. Lights flicker, 5:50 p.m. Temperature drops, 5:55 p.m. Hear myself talking to a patient, open wide. Mr. Smith, this won't hurt a bit. Almost finished. My voice, my words. But I'm still in the closet. Footsteps pass by. Multiple sets, all with my gait, all with my rhythm. Door opens, closes. Chair adjusts. Tools clink. The thing whispers in my voice. Join us, doctor. I check my phone camera. Screen shows me in the patient chair, me at the controls, me in the doorway, me in every reflection. All working, all watching, all smiling. Week 5. I quit, sold my practice, moved cities, found a new dental office, better security, better lighting, no 5:55 appointments. First day, check schedule, empty. Check appointment book, empty. Check consent forms, empty. 5:45 p.m. Lights flicker, 5:50 p.m. Temperature drops, 5:55 p.m. John Smith walks in, his face is clear now. It's my face. I'm already working on him. But I'm also watching from the doorway. The consent form appears in my files. My signature, today's date. The security camera footage shows all of me. Me at reception, me in the chair, me at the tools, me in the doorway, me in every reflection, me in every reflection, me in every shadow, me in every blink of static, all working, all watching, all smiling. The last appointment is always at 5:55 p.m. The last patient is always John Smith. The last procedure is always the same. The last signature is always mine. The last payment is always missing. The last camera always shows static. The last thing in the doorway is always me. Check your dentist's schedule. Look for 5:55 p.m. Look for John Smith. Look for my signature. Look for the thing in the doorway. It's almost time for your appointment. We're ready to see you now. All of us, all of me, open wide. This won't hurt a bit. We're almost finished. Just one last appointment. At 5:55 p.m. Forever.